just unveiled a massive new aircraft carrier, and it's shaking things up in the global military scene. This is not just another ship. It is a significant power move that demonstrates China is no longer just playing catch-up. Packed with advanced tech, a modern launch system, and a design that rivals the best out there, it has Pentagon officials paying close attention. So what makes this warship such a big deal? And how could it shift naval power across the world? Join us as we break down what's inside and why this might be a turning point. China has the largest navy in the world in terms of the total number of ships, but there is one area where it has always been behind the United States: the size and strength of its aircraft carriers. The United States has 11 massive supercarriers, along with several smaller ones. In contrast, China has only 2 smaller carriers and 1 large carrier that operates on conventional fuel rather than nuclear power. However, China is not going to remain behind for long. Reports from Asia indicate that China is now constructing a new aircraft carrier that could directly compete with the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is the most advanced and powerful aircraft carrier in the United States fleet. To understand the extent of China's progress, it is essential to examine its history. In the 1990s and early 2000s, China obtained old Soviet aircraft carriers, including the Minsk, Kiev, and Varyag. After undergoing extensive upgrades, the Varyag became China's first operational aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, also referred to as Type 001, which officially entered service in 2012. The Liaoning is a relatively small aircraft carrier with a ski-jump-style ramp designed to assist in launching aircraft into the air. Then came the Shandong, also known as Type 002, which was China's first domestically built aircraft carrier. It was launched in the year 2019 and, like the Liaoning, also uses a ski-jump launch system. However, the real breakthrough came with the Fujian Type 003, which was launched in the year 2022. This aircraft carrier introduced advanced technology, including electromagnetic catapult-assisted takeoff with arrested recovery, known as Catabar, a system used by the most sophisticated carriers in the world. Catabar technology allows aircraft to carry more weapons and fuel because they are launched using powerful catapults instead of a ramp. This gives the Fujian the ability to handle a broader range of aircraft and launch them more efficiently. While it is the largest aircraft carrier in the world outside the United States, it still relies on conventional fuel, which means it needs regular refueling for long missions. In the year 2024, the Fujian completed its sea trials, where the crew trained with its new equipment, getting China's Navy ready to operate this massive warship. The crew of the Fujian has been hard at work learning how to operate the ship, from managing aircraft lifts and electronics to overseeing weapons storage. This massive vessel, weighing over 85,000 tons when fully loaded, is significantly larger than China's earlier aircraft carriers, which weighed around 65,000 tons. In fact, the Fujian's design now closely resembles American aircraft carriers, although it still relies on conventional fuel rather than nuclear power. But here is where things get even more interesting. Experts analyzing satellite images of China's Dalian shipyard believe that construction on China's next large aircraft carrier has not yet begun. Satellite images released by NBC reveal an engineering prototype, essentially a test setup featuring 2 long tracks or trenches that appear to be connected to catapult systems. To put this into perspective, the United States Navy's Ford-class supercarriers use 4 electromagnetic catapults, with 2 parallel tracks positioned at the front and center of the flight deck. China's prototype, however, appears to have 2 angled tracks that converge at a single point, a design that analysts believe is space-saving for the carrier's deck. The angled tracks make it possible for fighter jets to take off from 4 different spots on the flight deck, which is a big boost in operational capability. Experts like Michael Dutzman, a researcher at the James Martin Center for Nonproliferation Studies in California, think this suggests an entirely new aircraft carrier design, potentially the future Type 04. If that is the case, China might soon deploy a carrier that rivals the most advanced warships in the United States fleet. Even with all the signs pointing to progress, the Dalian shipyard may not be fully prepared to start building this new aircraft carrier. Independent naval analyst H.I. Sutton from the United Kingdom explains that the tracks are linked to catapults, but they are just part of the testing setup, not actual carrier construction. So, while China's ambitions are clear, the production of this supercarrier is still some time away, giving the world a chance to see how this naval competition develops. China has caught experts off guard with the launch of a new ship that looks pretty unusual. It has a massive flight deck and 3 separate island structures on the right-hand side, which is not something you typically see. According to the War Zone, this could be an entirely new class of vessel, possibly a light aircraft carrier, an amphibious assault ship, or even a floating sea base. Unlike China's bigger, more advanced carriers, this design seems more straightforward, more like a commercial ship, and it will likely carry helicopters and drones rather than fighter jets. This design could be particularly helpful in specific missions, especially in highly monitored areas such as the Taiwan Strait or the South China Sea. A ship like this could strengthen China's ability to track and engage underwater threats, giving it an advantage in anti-submarine warfare. It could also play a role in amphibious operations, facilitating the movement of troops and equipment from the sea to land. That would be a key capability if China ever decides to carry out large-scale landings or make a strategic show of force in the region. One important takeaway from the War Zone is that having another shipyard to build these vessels speeds up China's military expansion. More shipyards mean faster production, helping the People's Liberation Army Navy grow its naval aviation and other sea-based capabilities at an even quicker pace. This rapid buildup is drawing attention from military analysts worldwide, who are watching China's increasing presence at sea. Adding to this, Stavros Atlamazoglu from Sandbox reported that China has quietly launched a smaller drone carrier, which has not received much public attention. This vessel is another step in China's effort to modernize its navy, showing that Beijing is not just replicating older designs, but is actively testing new ways to expand its military presence at sea. One of the key aircraft set to launch from the carrier is the J-15T, China's first carrier-based fighter explicitly designed for catapult-assisted takeoffs. Unlike earlier versions that relied on ski jump ramps, the J-15T comes with reinforced front landing gear, a launch bar, and a tail hook, making it capable of handling the force of catapult launches. This setup enables the aircraft to carry more fuel and weapons, thereby extending its range and enhancing its combat effectiveness. The J-15T comes equipped with advanced electronics and a modern radar system known as an active electronically scanned array. This technology allows the pilot to track targets at much greater distances, even when enemy aircraft attempt to evade detection. For example, while older Chinese carrier fighters could spot an approaching enemy plane at roughly 100 kilometers, the J-15T can detect it at over 150 kilometers. That extra range gives the pilot more time to plan an attack or protect the carrier group. Compared to previous models, this upgrade makes the J-15T far more effective in challenging combat scenarios, bringing it closer to the capabilities of today's most advanced fighter jets. The J-15T is powered by domestically built WS-10 engines, replacing the Russian-made AL-31F engines used in earlier versions. The WS-10 engines offer improved thrust and reliability, enhancing the aircraft's overall performance. This move to homegrown engines highlights China's increasing independence in military technology and strengthens the fighter's ability to operate effectively from aircraft carriers. The J-15T has been upgraded with structural reinforcements to handle the harsh conditions of carrier-based operations. This includes a stronger airframe and redesigned landing gear built to absorb the force of catapult launches and arrested landings. These upgrades help ensure the aircraft stays durable and safe during intense carrier missions. The J-15T is built to handle a wide range of air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons, making it a true multi-role fighter. It can carry advanced missiles, such as the PL-10 and PL-15, giving it strong offensive capabilities. With a design suited for everything from fleet defense to strike missions, this aircraft plays a key role in China's growing naval aviation force. Next on the list of aircraft is the Shenyang J-35, China's newest fifth-generation stealth fighter explicitly built for aircraft carriers. Designed for operations on the Fujian, the J-35 incorporates advanced stealth features, including a sleek angular frame and radar-absorbent materials, making it harder to detect. Its twin-engine setup delivers strong thrust and reliability, crucial for the intense conditions of carrier takeoffs and landings. The J-35 comes with an active electronically scanned array radar and advanced avionics, giving it strong situational awareness and tracking capabilities. Its internal weapons bay allows it to carry a range of air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions, while maintaining its stealth profile. The design also features folding wings and reinforced landing gear, designed to withstand the demanding conditions of carrier operations and facilitate easier storage aboard the Fujian. If the Fujian aircraft carrier is out in the Pacific, one of its most significant advantages is EMALS, an electromagnetic catapult system. This technology would enable it to launch the J-35 stealth fighter without requiring a long runway, which older carriers would struggle with. Once the J-35 is in the air, it is not just flying solo, it is constantly sharing live data with ships, jets, and ground units. If it spots an enemy target, that intel goes out instantly to the entire fleet, helping everyone adjust their strategy on the fly. This kind of real-time coordination is a game-changer for naval operations, giving China's Navy a serious edge in modern combat. China's rollout of the J-35 stealth fighter is a big move in military tech and naval strategy. Having a carrier-based stealth jet puts China in an exclusive club alongside the United States as one of the few nations with this capability. This is not just about acquiring a new fighter. It is about expanding naval reach and maintaining competitiveness in modern warfare. The J-35 is set to play a key role in the plan's future operations, reinforcing China's push for a more substantial, more advanced military presence. China's latest carrier-based airborne early warning and control aircraft, the Xi'an KJ-600, is designed to improve the situational awareness and command capabilities of the People's Liberation Army Navy. It has a similar look to the United States Navy's E-2 Hawkeye, featuring a high-wing design, twin turboprop engines, and a large rotating radar dome mounted on top. This setup allows it to detect and track aerial and surface targets over vast distances, delivering critical intelligence to carrier strike groups. Another aircraft is the KJ-600, which is built for serious surveillance, thanks to its active electronically scanned radar. This system enables it to track multiple targets simultaneously, including stealth aircraft and cruise missiles. Flying high above the carrier group, it keeps an eye on both the sky and the sea simultaneously. Older radars might only pick up a few planes at a time, but the KJ-600 can monitor dozens, even detecting smaller, hard-to-spot threats like stealth jets and fast-moving cruise missiles. If an enemy missile is launched from a distance, the KJ-600 can spot it early and alert the fleet. That gives ships and fighter jets critical time to react before the threat gets too close. Its advanced avionics system processes and shares data in real time, helping to coordinate a quick response. This aircraft doesn't just improve surveillance, it massively extends the reach of China's carriers, making early detection of threats and better battle management possible. For example, China's older carriers with ski jump ramps could only launch lighter jets that didn't need much speed to take off. But the Fujian's electromagnetic catapult can launch heavy aircraft like the KJ-600, which carries large radar equipment and a crew. This means the Fujian can send up not just fighters, but also advanced support planes that help control the battle. With the KJ-600 on board, the Fujian's carrier group can carry out longer, more complex missions far from home, making China's Navy much more capable and flexible than before. Beyond its central role in airborne early warning and control, the KJ-600 can be modified for other missions, like electronic warfare, anti-submarine operations, and carrier onboard delivery. Its adaptability and advanced systems make it a vital component of the People's Liberation Army Navy, enhancing carrier air operations. As China expands its naval presence, the KJ-600 will be essential in maintaining maritime dominance and improving the effectiveness of carrier strike groups. China's development of the KJ-600 is a big step in modernizing its military and keeping pace with top naval powers. By introducing a carrier-based airborne early warning and control aircraft, China fills a significant gap in its capabilities and enhances its ability to handle complex maritime missions. Adding the KJ-600 to the People's Liberation Army Navy's carrier fleet marks a significant move toward building a stronger, more capable blue water navy. China's Shenyang J-15D is the country's first carrier-based electronic warfare aircraft, built to boost the People's Liberation Army Navy's combat abilities. Based on the J-15 fighter, it's designed for electronic attack missions, like jamming enemy radar and communications. That means it helps protect carrier strike groups while also supporting offensive operations. For example, when the J-15D flies near enemy ships or radar stations, its jamming pods under the wings and body can send out signals that confuse enemy radar, making it hard for them to track friendly forces. Even if an enemy radar locks onto it, the J-15D's wingtip radar warning receivers can detect the threat early and help the pilot take action, like turning on extra jamming or changing course. This makes the J-15D a powerful protector for the carrier group, shielding other aircraft and ships from electronic attacks. Beyond its electronic attack capabilities, the J-15D is built to handle a range of missions. Its twin-seat setup includes a dedicated electronic warfare officer, improving coordination and effectiveness in complex operations. The aircraft is designed for network-centric warfare, meaning it can share real-time data with other platforms, boosting situational awareness across the fleet. China's deployment of the J-15D marks a major step in advancing its military technology and expanding its naval presence. Introducing a carrier-based electronic warfare aircraft helps fill a crucial gap in capabilities, improving the ability to handle complex maritime operations. Adding the J-15D to the People's Liberation Army Navy's carrier fleet is a key move in China's push for a stronger blue water navy. The Harbin Z-20F is China's naval version of its medium-lift utility helicopter, built to boost the People's Liberation Army Navy's anti-submarine warfare capabilities. Developed by Harbin Aircraft Industry Group, it's based on the land-based Z-20 but modified for maritime missions. Its design takes inspiration from the U.S. Navy's MH-60R Seahawk, aiming to offer similar versatility for China's fleet. The Z-20F is packed with advanced anti-submarine warfare systems, including a surface search radar, a magnetic anomaly detector, and a dipping sonar. These tools help it find and track submarines with precision. On missions, it can lower its sonar into the water to listen for hidden submarines, or use its magnetic detector to spot disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field caused by a submarine. Once it locks onto a target, the Z-20F can drop sonobuoys to track the submarine's movement and, if needed, fire U-7 lightweight torpedoes to take it out. Beyond underwater threats, it can also carry KD-10 air-to-surface missiles to strike small surface ships, making it a versatile weapon for naval combat. For example, thanks to its two powerful WZ-10 engines, the Z-20F can fly at speeds up to 360 kilometers per hour and cover distances of about 560 kilometers without refueling. Its 5-blade rotor provides better lift and balance. At the same time, the fly-by-wire system, a computer-based control setup, enables the pilot to handle the helicopter smoothly, even in rough sea winds or adverse weather conditions. This makes the Z-20F reliable and steady during tricky naval missions, where precision and control are critical. The Z-20F is not just built for anti-submarine warfare, it is designed to handle multiple missions. With its modular structure, it can switch roles to support surveillance, reconnaissance, and logistics. Its foldable rotor blades and tail make it easy to store on various naval vessels, including Type 052D destroyers, Type 055 cruisers, and the Fujin aircraft carrier. For example, if the Navy needs to move supplies or conduct surveillance, the Z-20F can be quickly reconfigured to carry cargo or cameras for reconnaissance. Its compact design allows it to fit into tight spaces on different ships, making it a flexible tool for naval operations across the fleet. The Z-20F marks a significant upgrade in the People's Liberation Army Navy's rotary wing aviation. It replaces older helicopters like the K-28 and Z-9C, improving operational reach and effectiveness in maritime missions. Deploying this aircraft is part of China's push to modernize its naval forces and expand its presence in regional and global waters. Imagine a massive 5,000-ton destroyer gleaming under North Korea's banner, set to prove the regime's naval might. On a crisp morning, crowds gathered, confetti at the ready, but within moments of launch, this symbol of strength lurched, tipped, and lay half-submerged, a twisted emblem of failed ambition. As Kim Jong-un watched in stunned silence, the hull's rust met the waves. What went so horribly wrong? Buckle up, because this is the story of pride, pressure, and a ship that simply refused to sail. On May 21st, North Korea rolled out the red carpet, or more accurately, a rusty iron ramp, for what was billed as a show-stopping moment of national pride. In the chilly air of Chongjin, an old port city on the country's northeastern coast where they normally build fishing boats and small cargo vessels, workers and military brass gathered to celebrate a big milestone: the launch of their new Chu Haiyan-class warship. This was no small fishing trawler or supply boat. At about 470 feet long and tipping the scales around 5,000 tons, this destroyer was the biggest warship Pyongyang had ever built. If all went well, it would stand as proof that North Korea could step up its naval game and show off a bit of real military muscle. Kim Jong-un himself flew in for the grand occasion. He stood on a makeshift viewing platform about 40 meters from the launch ramp, flanked by uniformed officers who practically glowed under the high-profile spotlight. Local officials, eager to impress, took turns praising the invincible might of their navy, assuring everyone that this new destroyer would sail off into the East Sea and make rivals tremble. Workers dressed in matching dark green uniforms snapped crisp salutes, and cameras clicked furiously as technicians gave final thumbs-ups to bolts and pulleys. You could practically taste the pride in the air. Every cheer and every flash of a camera was meant to signal, "Look at us, we're on the rise." But behind all the pomp and circumstance, things were already shaky. Outside observers had noted that North Korean shipyards had never before tried something like this, a sideways launch for a warship. Most shipyards around the world opt to slide a vessel straight down a slipway into the water, using carefully calculated angles and support guides to keep everything balanced. Here in Chongjin, though, engineers chose to push the massive hull off the dock sideways. It's a tricky move even for yards with decades of experience. One small miscalculation in angle or buoyancy, and the whole ship can go off kilter. The day dawned clear, with calm seas reflecting the morning sun. Workers lined the dock's edge, fists raised in the air, ready to roar with approval. Kim Jong-un and his entourage took their places, and for a moment it felt as if nothing could possibly go wrong. The announcer counted down. 3, 2, 1, launch! Instead of a smooth, controlled descent into the harbor, the destroyer shuddered. Its keel slipped unevenly, and the hull dipped too rapidly on one side. Within seconds, the massive vessel listed sharply, water poured over its deck, and the destroyer rolled onto its port side, half submerged in the harbor before anyone could blink. Gasps echoed among the crowd. Kim Jong-un's face went from triumphant pride to a pained wince. Guards rushed to block cameras while alarmed officials scrambled to control the scene. Satellite images and videos appeared almost instantly online, showing exactly what had happened. A 5,000-ton warship, its sleek radar towers and missile hatches brand new, lying helplessly on its side. Instead of sailing into open water, it sat tipped over like a beached whale. Within days, North Korean state-run media tried to put a spin on it, but word was already out. This sideways launch had failed spectacularly. Experts from outside quickly pointed fingers. In a report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, analysts said it was clear the Chongjin shipyard had no business trying to launch such a massive vessel this way. That yard normally handles small fishing boats and modest cargo ships. Never something as complex as a destroyer, bristling with weapons and electronics. Without the right infrastructure and know-how, using a sideways launch technique was simply asking for trouble. Back home, the fallout was swift and severe. North Korean authorities arrested 3 shipyard officials, among them the chief engineer and a senior munitions officer, blaming them for the criminal act of letting the ship capsize. Rumors spread that more heads would roll as Kim Jong-un made it clear he considered this fiasco nothing short of treason. Workers who had spent months welding steel plates, fitting engines, and installing radar systems watched in horror as their creations sank. The hull, once a symbol of pride, became a twisted monument to a miscalculation born of inexperience and political pressure to deliver fast. Satellite shots taken just 3 days before the accident had shown the gleaming hull perched on its launch ramp, looking every bit the symbol of strength the regime wanted. Instead, those images now stood as proof that ambition had far outstripped ability. And for a leader who insists on perfection, this public failure was nothing less than total humiliation. As whispered conversations passed between ordinary citizens, despite strict attempts to censor the truth, one fact became painfully clear. The shipyard undoubtedly lacked expertise in manufacturing and launching large warships. The ill-fated warship that toppled in Chongjin wasn't just any random vessel, it was essentially the same size and design as the Choe Haiyan guided missile destroyer. That first Choe Haiyan was a huge deal, North Korea's very first destroyer, and by far the most powerful surface ship the country has ever built. In fact, it was the crown jewel of Kim Jong-un's big strategy to modernize and bulk up his Soviet-era naval fleet. Just last month, the Choe Haiyan got its very own star treatment in Nampo, a port on the west coast close to Pyongyang, complete with speeches, confetti, and fireworks. State television showed all the glitz and glamour. Kim Jong-un and his daughter, Kim Ju-ae, were front and center, waving as the new destroyer floated proudly in the harbor. A massive viewing platform had been erected right next to the ship so the cameras could capture every angle. Reporters and uniformed officers cheered as the Choe Haiyan slid smoothly into the water, its steel hull glistening under the Nampo sun. It looked flawless, no drama, no hiccups. Every part of the ship seemed to work exactly as planned, and the crowd erupted into applause. It was clear this ship was supposed to be Kim's shining example of North Korea's naval renaissance. How did they manage to pull that off? According to Choi Il, a retired South Korean Navy captain who keeps a close eye on these things, the engineers in Nampo used the common floating dry dock method. Essentially, they built the Choe Haiyan inside a roof construction hall, protected from the elements, with better control over every weld, bolt, and engine install. Once the ship was complete, they hauled it out into the water on a floating dry dock. Then, by allowing water to flood the dry dock chamber, the ship gently floated free. It's a tried and true way to do it, safe, controlled, and less likely to end in disaster. Chongjin shipyard, on the other hand, didn't have those same bells and whistles. There was no dry dock big enough to hold a Choe Haiyan-class destroyer, and there wasn't even a proper incline to slide the ship's stern first into the water. Instead, engineers in Chongjin built their newest 5,000-tonner right on the quay, under a protective netting, basically out in the open. When it came time to launch, they had no choice but to send it sideways off the platform. That's basically like trying to push a massive, heavy log off a pier instead of easing it in head first. You can see where this was headed. When sailors and shipbuilders want everything to go just right, they make the vessel glide down a slipway lengthwise, bow, then stern, easing into the water in one smooth, graceful motion. Picture the USS Cleveland, a 3,500-ton warship that did its own launch in Wisconsin back in 2023. Out in the Great Lakes, they built the Cleveland on land, moved it carefully to a sloped ramp, and sent it straight down into the chilly water. There was a brief moment where it seemed to dive gracefully in, sending a wake into the lake, and then bobbing upright as the hull caught the water's support. The whole process looks almost poetic, a massive ship built piece by piece finally meeting the water with a quick but controlled splash. By contrast, the Chongjin technique was like attempting to drop that same 3,500-ton ship into a bathtub sideways, an obviously trickier affair. Without a dry dock, without a slipway, and without years of experience launching vessels that size, they resorted to a sideways push. In most established shipyards around the world, that method isn't unheard of. You see it for certain types of vessels, but it demands absolute precision. The way the piers are built, the way the supports are angled, and even the timing of when the water meets each part of the hull all have to be absolutely perfect. Any misstep sends the center of gravity off kilter, and gravity basically tumbles the ship over. The sunk destroyer in Chongjin proved just how difficult this technique can be when you aren't set up right. Without the proper incline or the specialized dry dock, they couldn't guide the hull smoothly. Instead, the massive mass slid unevenly, dipped too far, and in seconds the whole thing listed over. Water gushed over the side, filling compartments and dragging it down. The proud vessel, with its missile launchers still under wraps and radar dishes pointed skyward, as if frozen mid-sway, ended up half-submerged like a beached whale. It all happened so fast that by the time anyone realized what was happening, there was no turning back. Of course, experts outside North Korea wasted no time picking apart the failures in Chongjin. Building a warship as big as the Choehyun guided missile destroyer is no small feat. It takes decades of know-how, carefully engineered facilities, and experience launching vessels into the water just right. Chongjin's yard was built for much smaller work: cargo ships, fishing boats, things that weigh a fraction of 5,000 tons. Trying to slide a vessel of that size sideways without a proper ramp was like setting yourself up to fail from the get-go. And yet political pressure ran high. Kim Jong-un wanted tangible proof of his naval ambitions, something to show off to the world and to his own people. So they rushed. Politicians demanded results. The shipbuilders, under pressure to deliver, cut corners. And in the end, that spectacular ceremony in Chongjin turned into the most embarrassing naval moment North Korea has ever seen. If only they'd had the infrastructure, if only they'd built the boat in a dry dock, like in Nampo, or slid it in bow first like the USS Cleveland did in Wisconsin back in 2023. The difference between those two launches, even though they were the same basic idea, comes down to one thing: experience and proper facilities. Often when a giant warship slides into the water, a tugboat waits nearby to help if anything goes wrong. It's like a safety net under a trapeze artist. It shouldn't interfere, but if the ship starts to tip, the tug can steady it. For North Korea's second Choehyun-class destroyer, however, the tugboat couldn't prevent disaster. State media later admitted that as engineers pushed the destroyer into the harbor, it lost its balance. Instead of floating upright, it lurched and began to tip. Satellite images 2 days after the accident revealed the wreck. The warship lay on its right side under a blue tarp, its bow jammed against the launch ramp and stern dangling over the water. Any casual observer could see the ship had failed to launch properly. The viewing platform where Kim Jong-un and his officers had gathered was gone, removed as if to hide the embarrassment. Satellite snapshots show one image with the ship upside down and another with a small tugboat idling nearby, seemingly ashamed to be part of the scene. The sight conveyed the magnitude of the failure without a single word, broadcasting North Korea's setback globally. Launching a large warship sideways demands precise balance, explains retired South Korean Navy Captain Choi Il. From engine weight to radar antenna placement, every component must be calculated. Adding heavy weapons, anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air systems, torpedo tubes, shifts the center of gravity and complicates stability. If anything is even slightly off, water flows in unevenly, listing the hull until the destroyer lies on its side like a toppled toy. Just weeks earlier in Nampo, the first Choehyun-class destroyer had launched smoothly under confetti and fireworks. Kim Jong-un watched as the ship floated off a dry dock, engines roaring, test-firing missiles that arced bright orange into the sky. Officials hailed it as proof that North Korea's aging Soviet-era fleet was being reborn, stronger and more modern. Kim, visibly thrilled, toured shipyards and pushed engineers to accelerate naval expansion. Get it done fast, he urged, wanting the world to know North Korea's resolve. That pressure can be a double-edged sword. In Nampo, engineers had a modern dry dock and a covered hull to build the warship out of the elements. In Chongjin, they worked at an open-air facility accustomed to fishing boats and cargo vessels, not 5,000-ton missile destroyers. Without overhead cover, construction could halt for weather, forcing work into unpredictable conditions. South Korean analysts say Chongjin engineers likely felt intense pressure after Nampo's success. It's like being asked to bake an equally perfect cake in a kitchen, missing half its tools. Under such strain, they may have rushed weight calculations or lacked materials to reinforce the hull correctly. When political pressure meets limited resources, mistakes become almost inevitable. Corners were probably cut at every stage, from keel laying to final assembly. After the capsizing, state media downplayed the incident. "We will restore the ship's balance by pumping out seawater," broadcasts claimed. They promised to repair any dents and have the destroyer upright in a few days. According to official statements, the blue tarp was merely precautionary, and the crew would fix scratches quickly. However, satellite images suggest the damage ran deeper than a simple patch job. Yang Uk, a North Korean military expert at the ASEAN Institute for Policy Studies, noted the sideways launch system appeared flawed, but that alone might not explain everything. "The ship looks twisted after the accident," he said. "It doesn't appear to have been built with the structural strength required for a warship. Such defects might render it unusable unless extensive reconstruction is undertaken. A warship's hull must flex to handle waves while remaining rigid enough to resist twisting or sagging. If the frame is weak, even a minor tilt during launch can lead to catastrophic failure as water floods in." For the Chongjin-built destroyer, limited facilities, intense political pressure, and possibly subpar construction combined to produce a total collapse, robbing the Navy of a second frontline vessel. After the destroyer tipped on its side, panic rippled through the top ranks of Pyongyang. Before long, news surfaced that a fourth high-level figure had been dragged into the fallout. Ri Hyong-sun, a deputy director in the Workers' Party's munitions department. Think of him as one of the masterminds behind North Korea's weapons programs. He sits on the Central Military Commission, which is like the general's boardroom, where all the big military decisions are hashed out. Having someone at that level arrested shows just how furious Kim Jong-un was. Nothing less than an earth-shattering scandal in their eyes. Ri wasn't the only one to lose his freedom. Over the weekend, authorities rounded up 3 more men at the Chongjin shipyard: the chief engineer, who oversaw the blueprints and machinery, the construction head, who managed the day-to-day building work, and an administrative manager, the person in charge of budgets, schedules, and paperwork. All 3 had a hand in putting that 5,000-ton destroyer together. Now they're paying the price as a warning to anyone else who might blow it next time. Even North Korea's usually guarded state media couldn't hide its anger. Reports described the disaster as a result of absolute carelessness, irresponsibility, and unscientific empiricism. A polite way of saying the officials treated serious naval engineering like child's play. They didn't bother with careful calculations or proper procedures, so things went south fast. Exact punishments are never spelled out, but history tells us that when the regime points a finger, it's not just a slap on the wrist. Forced labor camps, or worse, often come next. This kind of public shaming is unusual. North Korea almost never broadcasts its own mistakes. When a missile falls back to Earth or a satellite doesn't reach orbit, they might quietly sweep the wreckage under the rug or spin it as a grand success. But here, the whole fiasco was laid bare for everyone to see. Analysts say that blasting these names through state channels is Kim's way of signaling 2 things at once: that he demands perfection and that no one, no matter how high up, is untouchable. Watching from outside the regime, experts saw Kim's crackdown as more than just vengeance. To them, it was a statement. North Korea will press ahead with its naval ambitions, and it will brook no failure. In most countries, if a warship capsizes during launch, engineers would quietly fix the problem, maybe keep it under wraps. But in Pyongyang, turning the blame into a political purge makes the stakes crystal clear. Admiral-level officers and factory chiefs know they're under a microscope. Veteran observers of North Korea's military are surprised at how openly state media aired this drama. Usually, everything in the news is about glowing victories. Negative reports, especially anything that might embarrass Kim, are banished or rewritten. Here, though, the regime let loose with harsh criticism of its own people. A few think this is a sign of unshakable confidence. By publicly laying out everyone's failures, Kim might be showing that he's not afraid of exposing weaknesses in his own system. As if to say, "See how tough I am? You can't fool me." Michael Madden, a seasoned North Korea watcher based in Washington, saw another side of the story. He noted that this whole mess may have come down to one simple fact. They were trying to do way too much all at once, pushing out a megaship, packing it with advanced weaponry, and expecting a smooth launch with a ticking deadline. That's a recipe for disaster. Under Kim's orders, engineers and workers were racing against a clock that probably didn't leave time for double-checking every weld or testing every mechanism. Instead of steady, meticulous work, they had to rush, cut corners, and hope for the best. Put all those pieces together and you get a classic case of too big, too fast. When engineers in Nampo launched the first Choi Heian destroyer a month earlier, they had a dry dock, a covered hull to build in, and a more relaxed timeline. Everything went off without a hitch because they could control every detail. In Chongjin, though, they were missing the fancy facilities. The only way to shove that massive hull into the water was to push it sideways, with no dry dock and no proper ramp. Add political pressure on top of dodgy equipment, and you end up with a 5,000-ton warship laying on its side, half sunk in the harbor. Now, North Korea's latest effort to salvage its flipped destroyer looks like something straight out of a cartoon. Dozens of huge white balloons tethered around the half-submerged hull, keeping it from slipping deeper into the water. Satellite pictures show these oversized blobs floating alongside the ship, which is still lying on its side and covered in blue tarps. A desperate attempt to hide a major embarrassment for Kim Jong-un. At first glance, those white balloons look more like floating sausages than a serious solution. But specialists believe they're not just for show, because the ship's front end is jammed against the dock and the back is dragging down. Trying to lift it normally might crack the hull or cause more flooding. Instead, these buoyant balloons, similar in concept to blimps but designed to work underwater, are probably there to hold the destroyer in place, taking some of the weight off the damaged sections so workers can patch holes and pump out water without the whole vessel slipping further. You can almost imagine a crew tying life vests around a sinking rowboat. These floating aids create extra lift, raising the sunken areas just enough for repairs. If they'd tried the usual method, raising the ship from below with cranes or a massive cradle, it could have stressed the weakened steel, causing cracks or bending that might be impossible to mend. By gently holding the hull in limbo, the balloons give repair teams a bit of breathing room. Still, even this clever trick may not be enough. A top expert in naval forces pointed out that the destroyer is likely under tremendous strain. Metal warps and bends when it's twisted or forced into strange positions, and this ship has been on its side for days. Parts of the deck might be caved in, and water could have sucked into areas that were never meant to be exposed. So even if the balloons keep it afloat, fixing the structural damage is a massive challenge. On top of that, we don't yet know how much worse things got when a cradle on the back of the ship detached during the launch. That cradle would normally support the vessel as it slid into the harbor, but it apparently gave way too soon, contributing to the catastrophic tilt. If that cradle tore off metal plates or dislodged critical support beams, it might have opened up gaping holes in the hull. Patching those would mean working underwater or inside flooded compartments, both risky and time-consuming tasks. Workers have to fight against time and tide. The colder water pressing against the hull could speed up corrosion, and every tide cycle might bring in more silt and debris that could clog pumps or block access points. Mud and grime can act like sandpaper, grinding against damaged steel and making repairs even tougher. Meanwhile, anyone standing on the deck to inspect damage risks slipping or falling if the hull suddenly shifts beneath their feet. Using balloons also introduces its own headaches. Each one has to be pumped with a lifting gas, probably helium or something similar, to generate enough buoyancy. The gas tanks, hoses, and pumps must all work perfectly. A single leak could mean losing lift in a critical area. And the rough sea conditions often found in that part of the Korean coast can make balloons bob up and down, stretching the tether lines and creating unpredictable forces against the ship. Every gust of wind or burst of current could tug the hull in a new direction, threatening to rip off a repair patch or collapse a temporary support. Beyond the engineering nightmare, there's a political sting here. North Korea has spent years promoting its newer warships as symbols of rising naval power. Now, instead of parades and fireworks, they have a flopped hull and a swarm of balloons holding it together. Every day that ship remains out of commission is a day that Kim Jong-un's grand naval plans are delayed. Plus, rivals watching the satellite images will quietly note just how fragile this ambitious push really is. Despite the drama, repair crews probably have no choice but to keep at it. If they can stabilize the ship enough, it might be possible to tow it back to a dry dock, if one big enough exists, or haul it ashore on a specially built cradle. Only then could engineers peel back the tarps, weld new steel plates, and test the hull's integrity. But that's assuming they have the materials, tools, and expertise to do critical shipyard work under extreme pressure. Given the way things went during the launch, it's hard to bet on a smooth fix. Hollywood blew the lid off a top-secret United States military weapon. In Top Gun, Maverick, a fake jet called the Dark Star, stunned audiences, but it turns out it might be real. Built for Mach 6 speeds and global strikes, this $335 million ghost aircraft has China pointing satellites at movie sets. And that's not even the wild part. Is the SR-72 already flying spy missions? And did the Pentagon use a movie to distract the world or warn it? Join us as we unveil the secret version of the United States SR-72 Dark Star. In the year 1998, the most untouchable aircraft in aviation history rolled into its hangar for the final time. The SR-71 Blackbird had dominated the skies for over 3 decades, streaking across hostile territory at speeds that turned enemy missiles into distant memories. But as the hangar doors closed on this titanium legend, few realized they were witnessing the end of one era and the secret beginning of another. The Blackbird's retirement seemed logical on paper. Each flight hour cost nearly $85,000, and the aircraft demanded exotic JP-7 fuel that had to be specially manufactured. The Pentagon claimed satellites could handle reconnaissance missions more efficiently. Yet these explanations masked a deeper truth that would only emerge decades later through classified documents and industry whispers. The SR-71's true legacy lay not in its publicized achievements, but in what it quietly accomplished behind the veil of secrecy. During its operational lifetime, the aircraft flew reconnaissance missions over 4,000 times without a single loss to enemy fire. More than 1,000 surface-to-air missiles were launched at various Blackbirds throughout their service, yet every pilot returned home safely. The secret was simple yet revolutionary: speed as survival. At Mach 3.2 and altitudes exceeding 85,000 feet, the Blackbird operated in a realm where physics became both ally and enemy. The aircraft's skin heated to over 500 degrees Fahrenheit during sustained high-speed flight, causing the titanium airframe to expand by nearly 6 inches. Fuel leaked from the tanks while parked on the ground, only sealing properly when thermal expansion closed the gaps at operational temperatures. But the Blackbird's most significant contribution wasn't speed or altitude. It was proving that air-breathing aircraft could penetrate the most sophisticated air defense systems ever built. Soviet SA-2 and SA-5 missiles, designed specifically to counter high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, consistently failed against the SR-71's combination of speed, altitude, and minimal radar signature. The aircraft's distinctive chine design and radar-absorbing paint reduced its radar cross-section significantly, making it appear much smaller to enemy tracking systems. By the mid-1990s, military strategists recognized that future conflicts would require capabilities the Blackbird couldn't provide. The aircraft was purely a reconnaissance platform, limited to observing and reporting. Modern warfare demanded platforms that could strike as well as spy, operating autonomously in environments too dangerous for human pilots. The real reason behind the Blackbird's disappearance becomes clear when examining what happened next. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, the same team that created the SR-71, immediately began work on concepts that would push beyond Mach 3. They understood that adversaries were developing new air defense systems specifically designed to counter high-altitude, high-speed reconnaissance aircraft. The future belonged to platforms that could operate at hypersonic speeds while carrying both sensors and weapons. The Blackbird's thermal management systems, developed to handle extreme heat at Mach 3, became the foundation for research into materials capable of surviving even higher temperatures. Its innovative engine design, which transitioned from turbojet to ramjet operation at high speeds, inspired propulsion concepts that would eventually enable sustained hypersonic flight. Every technical challenge overcome by the SR-71 program provided crucial data for its successors. As the last Blackbird entered retirement, a new generation of aerospace engineers was already sketching aircraft that would make the legendary spy plane seem almost pedestrian. The question wasn't whether America would build a successor to the Blackbird, it was whether that successor was already flying in the restricted airspace above Nevada, preparing to shock the world with capabilities that would redefine the meaning of air dominance. However, the most shocking clue about the Blackbird's true successor didn't come from Pentagon briefings or classified documents. It came from Hollywood. How did a blockbuster movie accidentally expose America's most guarded aerospace secret? The summer of 2022 brought more than just box office records when Top Gun: Maverick soared into theaters worldwide. Hidden within the film's opening sequence was an aircraft that would send shockwaves through intelligence communities across the globe. The fictional Dark Star, piloted by Tom Cruise's character, wasn't just another Hollywood creation born from computer graphics and imagination. This sleek, hypersonic marvel was the product of an unprecedented collaboration between filmmakers and Lockheed Martin's legendary Skunk Works division. The partnership began when the movie's producers approached Lockheed Martin for technical consultation, seeking authenticity for their fictional aircraft. What they received went far beyond typical Hollywood cooperation. Engineers from Skunk Works, the same secretive division that created the SR-71 Blackbird and F-117 stealth fighter, actively participated in designing every detail of the Dark Star's appearance. They constructed a full-scale, physically accurate mock-up that was filmed at China Lake, one of America's most restricted military testing facilities. The Dark Star's design revealed suspicious similarities to long-rumored specifications of the SR-72. At 69.5 feet in length, the fictional aircraft matched theoretical dimensions that aerospace analysts had been discussing for years. Its distinctive wedge-shaped profile incorporated advanced stealth characteristics, including carefully angled surfaces designed to deflect radar signatures. The air intakes were positioned and shaped according to principles necessary for hypersonic flight, suggesting knowledge that extended beyond theoretical concepts. The global intelligence community took notice immediately. Within weeks of the film's release, China's military satellite tracking stations began repositioning assets to monitor the China Lake facility where the Dark Star mock-up had been filmed. Chinese social media platforms erupted with speculation about whether the aircraft was real, prompting their space surveillance network to redirect expensive satellite resources for closer examination. The fact that a movie prop could trigger such a response revealed the heightened anxiety surrounding hypersonic aircraft development. But the most significant revelation came through Lockheed Martin's own social media presence. Following the film's success, the company posted a carefully worded tweet stating that the SR-71 remained the fastest acknowledged crewed air-breathing aircraft. The emphasis on acknowledged and crewed sent ripples through aerospace communities worldwide. Why would a defense contractor feel compelled to clarify the status of a decades-old aircraft unless faster, unacknowledged alternatives already existed? Industry insiders recognize the tweet as a classic example of corporate messaging that reveals more than it conceals. The phrasing suggested that Lockheed Martin possessed operational aircraft capable of exceeding the SR-71's performance, but couldn't publicly acknowledge their existence due to classification levels. This type of carefully structured disclosure has historically preceded the eventual unveiling of revolutionary aerospace platforms. The entertainment industry has long served as an unofficial testing ground for public reaction to advanced military technologies. From stealth aircraft appearing in movies years before official acknowledgement to GPS technology being demonstrated in civilian contexts before military applications became known, Hollywood has frequently provided cover for gradual disclosure of classified capabilities. The Dark Star collaboration represented something unprecedented in this relationship between entertainment and defense. Never before had a major defense contractor provided such detailed technical assistance for a fictional aircraft that so closely resembled rumored classified projects. The level of cooperation suggested that the boundaries between fiction and reality had become deliberately blurred, serving purposes that extended far beyond box office revenues. Hollywood's accidental revelations were just the beginning. The real smoking gun lay buried in corporate financial reports and government contracts. What did $335 million in mysterious losses really buy? The trail of breadcrumbs leading to America's most classified aircraft program wasn't hidden in top-secret facilities or encrypted communications. Instead, it was scattered across public financial documents, corporate earnings reports, and government contract databases that anyone could access. The challenge wasn't finding the information, it was recognizing what the numbers actually meant. Lockheed Martin's quarterly earnings reports from 2022 through 2024 contained a financial anomaly that caught the attention of aerospace analysts worldwide. Buried within routine financial disclosures were references to cost overruns in an unnamed aeronautics program that had consumed $335 million beyond its original budget. The company described these expenditures as related to system integration challenges typical of advanced aerospace programs, but provided no details about which specific project was bleeding money. Corporate financial experts recognized familiar patterns in these mysterious expenditures. Similar cost structures had appeared in Lockheed Martin's books during the development of other classified programs, including the F-117 stealth fighter and various black projects that weren't publicly acknowledged until years after their operational deployment. The company's history of managing classified programs through carefully structured financial reporting made these recent losses particularly significant. Government contract databases revealed additional pieces of the puzzle. In 2022, Safran Landing Systems Canada announced a contract with Lockheed Martin to design what they described as clean sheet landing gear for a future aircraft. The terminology was crucial. Clean sheet designs are only necessary for production aircraft, not experimental prototypes or technology demonstrators. The contract specifications called for landing gear capable of supporting aircraft weights and landing speeds that exceeded any known operational platform. The most intriguing clue emerged from digital forensics rather than traditional investigation. Internet searches for Lockheed Martin SR-72 returned a peculiar result, a web page that appeared in search engine listings but displayed only an error message stating, "No information is available for this page." Technical analysis revealed that the web page existed within Lockheed Martin's official domain structure, complete with proper metadata and search engine optimization, but had been deliberately configured to prevent public access while maintaining its presence in search results. This type of web page configuration serves a specific purpose in corporate communication strategy. Companies typically create restricted pages for products or programs that exist but cannot be publicly discussed due to classification requirements. The fact that Lockheed Martin had established an official web page for the SR-72, even in restricted form, suggested that the program had progressed beyond theoretical concepts into active development phases. Financial analysts who specialized in defense contractor reporting identified additional suspicious patterns in Lockheed Martin's spending. Research and development expenditures had increased by nearly 40% over 3 years, with most of the additional funding allocated to aeronautics divisions rather than space or missile programs. This concentration of resources in aeronautics, combined with the company's historical focus on advanced aircraft development, pointed toward a major aviation project that required substantial ongoing investment. The money trail led to an inescapable conclusion. Somewhere in the classified world of defense contracting, hundreds of millions of dollars were being spent on an aircraft program that officially didn't exist, but whose financial footprint was becoming impossible to hide. While financial records revealed the scale of America's secret investment, the real breakthrough lay in solving an engineering challenge that had stumped scientists for decades. How do you build an engine that works from 0 to Mach 6? The propulsion system powering the SR-72 represents the most significant advancement in air-breathing engine technology since the invention of the jet engine itself. Traditional aircraft engines face an insurmountable physics problem. No single propulsion system can efficiently operate across the entire speed range from takeoff to hypersonic flight. Turbojet engines excel from 0 speed up to roughly Mach 2.2, while scramjets only become effective above Mach 4. This gap has prevented the development of true hypersonic aircraft for over half a century. Engineers at Lockheed Martin and Aerojet Rocketdyne solved this seemingly impossible challenge through the development of a turbine-based combined-cycle propulsion system. The TBCC engine essentially combines two different propulsion technologies within a single airframe, sharing the same inlet and exhaust nozzle while maintaining separate airflow paths for different speed regimes. During subsonic and low supersonic flight, air flows through a conventional turbine engine. As the aircraft accelerates beyond Mach 3, airflow gradually transitions to a scramjet combustor that can sustain efficient operation at hypersonic speeds. Operating at Mach 6 subjects the engine to thermal conditions that approach the limits of known material science. Internal combustion temperatures exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius, while external surfaces experience similar heating from atmospheric friction. The scramjet combustor must maintain stable fuel ignition in an airflow moving at supersonic speeds, a process that engineers compare to trying to light a match in a hurricane. Specialized fuel injection systems create precisely controlled shock waves within the combustion chamber, slowing the airflow just enough to sustain ignition while preventing the flame from being extinguished by the extreme velocities. The materials required for TBCC operation represent decades of advanced metallurgy research. Critical engine components use ceramic matrix composites and carbon-carbon materials originally developed for intercontinental ballistic missiles and space shuttle applications. These exotic materials maintain their structural integrity at temperatures that would melt conventional jet engine components within seconds. The manufacturing processes for these materials remain highly classified, with production limited to a handful of specialized facilities under strict government oversight. Ground testing of TBCC technology has been conducted at facilities across the United States since the early 2010s. These tests utilize subscale engine components mounted on specialized test stands capable of simulating hypersonic flight conditions. The testing process requires enormous amounts of compressed air delivered at precise temperatures and pressures, replicating the conditions the engine would encounter during actual flight. Recent contract awards for expanded testing facilities suggest that these ground tests have validated the basic TBCC concept and are now focusing on full-scale engine integration. The development timeline for TBCC propulsion aligns perfectly with reported SR-72 schedules. Initial research began following the cancellation of previous hypersonic programs in 2008 when Aerojet Rocketdyne applied scramjet technology from the DARPA HTV-3X project to civilian applications. NASA provided additional funding through research contracts in 2014, supporting design studies that bridge the gap between experimental scramjet technology and operational TBCC systems. The engine that seemed to break the laws of physics was about to rewrite the rules of modern warfare. But revolutionary propulsion was only half the equation. The real shock came when Pentagon planners revealed the SR-72's true purpose. What if reconnaissance was never the primary mission? The strategic transformation of the SR-72 from spy plane to strike platform represents a fundamental shift in how America projects military power across the globe. Unlike its predecessor, which carried only cameras and electronic sensors, the SR-72 has been designed from the outset to integrate both intelligence gathering and precision strike capabilities within a single airframe. This dual-role configuration transforms the aircraft from a passive observer into an active participant in military operations, capable of identifying targets and eliminating them within the same mission profile. The weapons integration system centers around the high-speed strike weapon, a hypersonic missile specifically designed to be deployed from aircraft traveling at extreme velocities. The HSSW represents a miniaturization breakthrough that allows devastating firepower to be packaged within the aerodynamic constraints of hypersonic flight. Traditional air-launched weapons cannot function when released from aircraft exceeding Mach 5, as the extreme airflow conditions destroy conventional guidance systems and control surfaces within milliseconds of separation. Pentagon strategists recognize that future conflicts would be decided by the ability to compress response times rather than deploy overwhelming force. The SR-72's combination of speed and strike capability creates what military planners call temporal dominance. the ability to complete entire mission cycles before adversaries can mount effective responses. An aircraft capable of flying from continental United States to targets in Asia within 90 minutes fundamentally alters the strategic calculus of modern warfare. The development of this strike capability directly responds to China's rapid advancement in hypersonic weapons technology. Chinese military forces have deployed the DF-ZF hypersonic glide vehicle and revealed the WZ-8 reconnaissance drone, both of which operate at speeds that challenge traditional American air defense systems. The SR-72's hypersonic strike capability serves as both a technological counter and a strategic deterrent, demonstrating that American forces can match and exceed any hypersonic threat currently deployed by potential adversaries. Advanced targeting systems aboard the SR-72 utilize artificial intelligence to process sensor data and identify targets in real time during hypersonic flight. These AI-enabled systems can distinguish between legitimate military targets and civilian infrastructure, make engagement decisions based on rules of engagement programmed before takeoff, and coordinate with satellite networks to update target information during flight. The integration of autonomous decision-making capabilities allows the aircraft to operate effectively in communications-denied environments where traditional command and control systems would be ineffective. The miniaturization of nuclear and conventional warheads has enabled the SR-72 to carry multiple precision strike weapons without compromising its aerodynamic performance. Modern warhead technology can deliver devastating effects using payloads that weigh a fraction of previous generation weapons, allowing the aircraft to maintain its hypersonic performance while carrying sufficient firepower to eliminate high-value targets. This weapons miniaturization represents decades of advancement in materials, science, and explosive chemistry, concentrated into packages small enough to be carried by hypersonic aircraft. Strategic implications extend far beyond individual tactical missions. The SR-72's global reach capability means that no target on Earth exists beyond the range of American precision strike forces. This omnipresent threat capability serves as a powerful deterrent against aggressive actions by potential adversaries who must calculate their strategic decisions, knowing that American retaliation could arrive within an hour of any provocation. The psychological impact of this capability may prove as significant as its actual military applications. The aircraft's stealth characteristics, combined with hypersonic speed, create multiple layers of survivability that make interception nearly impossible using current air defense technologies. Even if enemy radar systems can detect the SR-72's approach, existing surface-to-air missiles lack the speed and maneuverability necessary to engage targets moving at Mach 6. This survivability advantage ensures that the aircraft can complete its strike missions and return to base, providing commanders with a reliable precision strike option in the most heavily defended environments. After years of relentless cyber attacks and espionage, China thought it had struck gold, stealing what it believed were the blueprints to America's most advanced fighter, the F-22. But they were chasing shadows. In a stunning reveal, the U.S. has unveiled a next-generation air dominance fighter that isn't just a successor to the F-22, but a complete game-changer. With unmatched stealth, blistering speed, and battlefield awareness, this fighter jet is set to enter service by 2030 and redefine air superiority for decades to come. So how powerful is this jet? And why are America's enemies panicking? Join us as we reveal why the U.S.'s enemies are scared of the new F-22 replacement. The F-22 Raptor might just be a fifth-generation fighter jet, but it is by far one of the most advanced fighter jets modern warfare has ever seen. Its sleek shape, hidden air intakes, and special materials help it remain undetected by enemy radar. This jet is also equipped with advanced technology that has never been used before. One of its standout features is the APG-77 radar, which can track multiple targets simultaneously, even in adverse weather conditions, and detect enemies up to 150 miles away. With over 30 antennas surrounding the jet, it can detect threats more than 250 miles away and help the pilot respond quickly using tools like flares and chaff. It also features sensors to detect incoming missiles and track heat from a distance without revealing its position. At the core of the jet are two powerful computers that process over 10 billion instructions every second. They manage everything from radar to mission systems. This system can spot threats and share information like a flying command center, similar to the larger RC-135. When it comes to armament, the F-22 is equipped with 3 internal weapons bays, a large central bay under the fuselage, and 2 smaller side bays near the engine inlets. A small bay located behind each side bay is used for countermeasures, such as flares. The central bay can hold 6 LAU-142/A launchers for beyond visual range missiles, while each side bay holds an LAU-141/A launcher for short-range missiles. Though designed for air-to-air combat, the F-22 primary weapons bay can also be reconfigured to carry bombs. The 4 missile launchers can be swapped out for 2 bomb racks, each capable of holding 1 1,000-pound bomb or 4 250-pound bombs, allowing it to carry up to 2,000 pounds of air-to-surface ordnance. While the F-22 typically carries weapons internally to preserve its stealth profile, it is also equipped with 4 hardpoints on its wings, each capable of handling 5,000 pounds. These hardpoints can be fitted with pylons to carry a 600-gallon external fuel tank or a launcher for 2 air-to-air missiles. Despite the F-22's incredible capabilities, China managed to obtain state secrets about the jet and quickly set to work on developing a replica. China's new J-31, the first 5th-generation stealth fighter in its fleet, has been photographed conducting test flights. This jet is intended to be the People's Liberation Army Air Force's response to both the F-22 and the F-35. However, what Beijing didn't foresee was how the U.S. Air Force's next-generation NGAD program would surpass these older designs. As China strives to make its first 5th-generation fighter a reality, the next-generation air dominance program is creating shockwaves, especially with its groundbreaking network capabilities. Unlike traditional fighters, which operate as standalone aircraft, the NGAD is envisioned as a connected family of systems consisting of the main fighter jet and a series of unmanned aerial vehicles that can be controlled by the pilot with the push of a button. Each NGAD fighter will be accompanied by at least 2 collaborative combat aircraft, also known as CCA, for missions like counter-air operations, air-to-air strikes, and attacks on ground-based targets. These CCAs are pushing the boundaries of technology, with development starting in 2024 and the U.S. investing up to $6 billion into the project from 2024 to 2028. The CCAs will be unmanned, featuring a degree of autonomy powered by AI-driven software. Before taking flight alongside the NGAD, each CCA will be programmed with its mission objective. This AI will also allow the CCA to communicate with its paired NGAD fighter, creating a seamless connection between the two. This advanced system is designed to give the NGAD pilot unmatched situational awareness, improved survivability, and a broad array of attack options. CCAs will be able to carry weapons, engage enemy aircraft, and participate in air-to-ground strikes. They'll also be capable of gathering intelligence and offering surveillance over a wider area than a single fighter could cover on its own. With an impressive range of sensors, CCAs will alert the NGAD pilot to incoming threats, providing early warnings and enhancing missile evasion capabilities. In addition, CCAs may be equipped with electronic warfare tools like radar jammers, which will give the NGAD an even greater edge against adversaries. Together, the NGAD and its CCAs form a unified network of aerial assets operating as a single platform. This is a nightmare for any opposing fighter pilot. Rather than engaging with a highly skilled F-22 pilot, an enemy would have to contend with a swarm of CCAs that could help the NGAD evade missiles, jam radar, and even fire back before the enemy gets in range. Even if an enemy manages to shoot down one of the CCAs, the NGAD and another CCA will remain airborne, ensuring U.S. forces retain the upper hand. This creates a situation where an enemy fighter faces a 3-against-1 scenario, giving the NGAD a decisive advantage over any fighter China or Russia can deploy. However, the real challenge for adversaries is the NGAD's stealth, which is designed to surpass anything currently in the skies. While much about its stealth technology remains classified, leaks suggest that it will achieve a level of invisibility across traditional radar spectrums, rendering it undetectable not only by radar, but also by thermal sensors. The secret to this enhanced stealth lies in thermal cloaking, a concept previously confined to science fiction. Thermal cloaking involves manipulating the heat signature of an object, such as the heat emitted by the jet's engines or weapons. By redirecting this heat, typically with advanced materials, the NGAD will effectively make itself invisible to thermal sensors, including infrared detection systems. While the NGAD won't be completely invisible, it is still a physical object with UAVs around it. The ability to control its heat signature gives it a distinct advantage. Enemies won't be able to rely on infrared sensors to spot the NGAD, making it incredibly difficult to detect in the skies. It will be able to approach both air and ground targets undetected, potentially striking before the enemy even has a chance to react. Additionally, the NGAD's weapon systems, inherited from the F-22, can strike targets beyond visual range. With this capability, the NGAD and its CCAs will be able to destroy a target before it even becomes visible to the enemy, further amplifying its advantage. This combination of stealth, advanced weapons, and an integrated network of CCAs makes the NGAD an unstoppable force in modern warfare. Speaking of materials, the NGAD is poised to leap ahead of its competitors, particularly in the materials used for its construction. While most aircraft still rely heavily on metal, the NGAD will incorporate cutting-edge composite materials throughout its entire frame. The key material in this revolutionary design is ceramic matrix composites, known as CMCS. Traditionally, CMCs consist of two parts: a reinforcement material that provides strength and flexibility, and a matrix material that binds everything together. The innovation in the NGAD's CMCs, however, lies in the fact that both the reinforcement and matrix materials are made from the same type of ceramic, with possible additional secondary fibers for added strength. This development makes the NGAD's CMCs distinct from both traditional ceramics and the high-performance metal alloys typically used in fighter jets. The result is a material that combines the best of both worlds. CMCs are incredibly durable at high temperatures, reducing the risk of warping when the jet is flying at extremely high speeds. They are also remarkably light, about a third of the weight of nickel alloys, giving the NGAD greater maneuverability than its predecessors like the F-22. Additionally, this reduced weight means the jet can carry more weapons without sacrificing speed or agility. CMC's ability to maintain high mechanical strength at elevated temperatures, combined with fracture toughness and resistance to thermal shocks, further cements its role as the next-generation material for fighter jet construction. This will make the NGAD not only faster and more agile, but also more resilient, capable of surviving extreme conditions that might cause conventional jets to falter. The combination of lightweight and high-performance materials like CMCs means that a rival pilot will have to contend with more than just the NGAD's advanced weaponry and network systems. They'll be up against a fighter that is lighter, faster, and more capable of outmaneuvering them in battle. Even more concerning for America's adversaries is that CMCs won't be exclusive to the NGAD. GE Aviation is already working on incorporating these materials into the F-35's design, suggesting that this material will become a game-changer across multiple platforms, further solidifying the U.S. military's air dominance. However, weight and materials are just one part of the equation. The NGAD's speed will also benefit from the next-generation adaptive propulsion, also known as the NGAP system. In partnership with Pratt & Whitney, the U.S. Air Force has already completed a prototype of the NGAP system, known as the XA-103. This prototype has undergone successful evaluations and is now set for ground testing. The NGAP system is a critical component of the NGAD's design, focused on enhancing overall performance and enabling air dominance. Pratt & Whitney, the company behind the system, has emphasized that the NGAP will provide greater fuel efficiency, allowing the NGAD to stay airborne longer and cover greater distances than current fifth-generation fighters. The system will also offer robust power and advanced thermal management, further improving the fighter's already impressive stealth capabilities. The specific details of NJAP's capabilities are still somewhat limited, but insights can be drawn from comments by John R. Sneeden, the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center's propulsion director. Sneeden, who has been involved with the Adaptive Engine Transition Program, AETP, which aimed at creating a new engine for the F-35, has stated that while the NJAP system will differ from the AETP, the technology baseline is essentially the same. This means many of the advancements made in the AETP program, particularly in composite materials and thermal management, will be incorporated into NGAD's propulsion system. These improvements are expected to enhance the stealth profile of the NJAD, allowing it to operate more effectively in contested airspace. The NJAP system will enable the NGAD to achieve supercruise speeds well beyond the F-22's Mach 1.7, likely reaching Mach 2. Supercruise refers to the ability of a fighter jet to maintain supersonic speeds without using afterburners, which can expose the jet to enemy detection due to the heat generated. By achieving Mach 2 without afterburners, the NGAD will be able to fly at twice the speed of sound while remaining virtually undetectable. This increased speed, combined with improved fuel efficiency and extended operational ranges, will give the NGAD a significant edge over its adversaries. The advanced propulsion system ensures the fighter remains airborne for extended periods, covering greater distances without requiring frequent refueling, making it more efficient and versatile than Chinese or Russian fighters. Beyond its impressive flight capabilities, the NGAD is expected to carry a fearsome array of weapons. While full details of its armament are still under wraps, it is speculated that one of the primary weapons will be the Raytheon AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, JATM, which is currently in development. With a maximum speed of Mach 5, over twice the speed of China's J-35 fighter, the JATM is designed to engage and neutralize high-speed fifth-generation fighters with ease. Its range extends to 120 miles, which means it can be fired from beyond visual range, giving the NGAD a significant edge in any aerial confrontation. The missile is equipped with both an inertial guidance system and an active radar seeker, ensuring it can lock onto and track targets with high precision, even at great distances. One of the JATM's most notable features is its design to counter emerging threats, particularly new Chinese fighters like the J-31. According to Brigadier General Anthony Genetempo, who once led the U.S. Air Force's weapons program, the JATM offers greater range than the AMRAAM and includes unique capabilities tailored to engage specific threats, like the J-31. This focused capability makes the missile a vital component of the NJAD's arsenal, ensuring it remains effective against the latest advanced enemy fighters. In addition to the JATM, the NGAD will be equipped with the Northrop Grumman Stand-in Attack Weapon, SI-AW, a missile designed for attacking relocatable surface targets, such as ships and land-based air defense systems. While details on the CRW are scarce, its inclusion would give the NGAD even greater versatility, enabling it to engage both aerial and ground-based threats effectively. With the SI-AW, the NGAD would be capable of striking multiple types of targets, making it an all-encompassing weapon of air superiority. Another key aspect of the NJAD's performance is its operational altitude. The jet is expected to operate at altitudes as high as 60,000 feet, a characteristic that allows it to maintain a significant advantage over adversaries. The F-22 Raptor demonstrated the strategic value of this altitude when it successfully shot down a Chinese high-altitude balloon in early 2023. Being able to launch weapons like the JATM and SI-AW from an altitude of 60,000 feet gives the NGAD a dramatic edge in both range and stealth. Missiles launched from higher altitudes benefit from reduced atmospheric drag and greater kinetic energy, allowing them to travel farther and faster. In real terms, that means a missile fired from an NGAD at high altitude can strike well before enemy aircraft, flying 20 to 30 feet lower, are even aware of its presence. It's a classic case of first look, first shot, first kill. This high-altitude advantage reinforces the NGAD's core strategy to dominate the air without even being seen. Operating at a height that most enemy fighters cannot reach and firing beyond visual range, the NGAD will be able to eliminate threats long before a confrontation is necessary. It's not just about having superior speed or stealth, though it has both. It's about reshaping the air battlefield into something entirely asymmetric. But while the NGAD may be the most advanced fighter ever conceived, its cost is a genuine concern. At an estimated $300 million per jet, the NGAD comes with a price tag nearly triple that of an F-35. And that estimate doesn't even include the CCAs. These high costs limit how many NGADs the Air Force can purchase. As Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall noted in 2024, we can only afford it in small numbers. That means the NGAD won't replace the F-35 or F-22 in volume, but instead act as a spearhead force, leading the charge in the most sensitive and high-risk missions where air superiority is non-negotiable. Even in small numbers, though, the NGAD is a game-changer. Its blend of next-generation weapons, unrivaled stealth, high-altitude performance, and adaptive propulsion makes it untouchable by anything China or Russia can currently field. Surprisingly, the NGAD isn't the only advanced jet the U.S. is working on. Another powerful project is underway, the F-A-20. In 2012, the U.S. Navy began planning for this next-generation fighter. It's designed to take over from the aging Super Hornet fleet in the 2030s and to work alongside the F-35C and future unmanned aircraft. The F-A-20 will be built for complete air dominance, with the ability to fight in the most dangerous skies where enemy defenses are strong. This jet won't just handle air-to-air battles, it will also conduct ground strikes, defend naval forces, and support ground troops. It's expected to have super cruise ability, flying fast without using afterburners, plus cutting-edge stealth, sensors, and radar systems. What sets the F-A-20 apart is its adaptability. It may come in manned, unmanned, or even pilot-optional versions. It will likely include air-to-air refueling, reconnaissance, surveillance, and electronic warfare capabilities. Although still under wraps, the Navy is exploring some innovative features, such as smart skins, where sensors and electronics are integrated directly into the aircraft's body. This would reduce drag and boost performance. The jet may also have extreme battlefield connectivity, linking up with satellites, drones, and other aircraft in real time. One key design goal for the F-A-20 is flexibility. The Navy wants an open architecture system, basically a modular setup where different sensors, weapons, and tech can be swapped in and out based on the mission. This way, the jet can quickly adapt to other roles, even on back-to-back flights. The propulsion system remains a topic of debate. The Air Force supports adaptive cycle engines that shift airflow to boost fuel efficiency and performance. But the Navy isn't entirely convinced those engines will work well on carrier-based jets, where weight and space are more limited. Instead of depending solely on stealth or speed like past fighters, the F-A-20 is being designed with a new mindset. Thanks to modern radar and faster enemy missiles, survivability now depends on more than just being invisible. The next-gen jet will carry powerful advanced weapons and rely on networked battle systems. That means it doesn't need to see everything itself. It can get target info from other platforms in the sky or at sea and still strike with pinpoint accuracy. And of course, it has to land on aircraft carriers. The F-A-20 will need to work seamlessly with the Navy's current carrier fleet, including both the Nimitz and Gerald R. Ford classes.
The United States Navy is reaching its limit. After years of relentless cartel activity, smuggling routes, brutal violence, and a crumbling border situation, America is now responding with a force unlike anything seen before. Warships, stealth aircraft, and advanced drones are sweeping across the southern frontier with a message loud and clear. This is our line. Don't cross it. This isn't a bluff. It marks the beginning of a military campaign that could reshape the cartel war forever. The only question is, can the cartels survive what's coming? Here's how the U.S. Navy is cracking down on cartel operations at the border. Back in March, President Donald Trump officially declared 8 major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. That move gave the U.S. military, especially the Navy, sweeping counterterrorism authority. Around the same time, Mexico's Senate agreed to a joint training initiative between America's 7th Special Forces Group and Mexico's elite naval marine units. But in truth, these moves were just the surface. Trump had already begun quietly mobilizing military assets on January 20th. the very day he was sworn in for a second term. The public announcements came later. The operations were already underway. Since then, both U.S. and Mexican officials have acknowledged at least 18 aerial surveillance missions over Mexican territory. Among the aircraft used, one in particular has drawn global attention: the MQ-9 Reaper drone. This is no ordinary surveillance tool. It's the U.S. military's primary drone for intelligence gathering and pinpoint strikes. It can carry 8 Hellfire missiles, including the notorious Ninja Bomb, which doesn't explode but slices through its target with whirling blades. The Reaper name fits for a reason. The drone can fly over 1,100 miles and remain airborne for up to 40 hours without landing. Onboard systems include high-resolution infrared sensors, real-time video feeds, and a state-of-the-art targeting module known as the AN/DAS-4 capable of spotting a person from 30,000 feet or reading license plates from far beyond the horizon. Due to its effectiveness, the CIA has even loaned Reapers to the DEA for counter-cartel operations. This interagency cooperation, originally developed under President Biden, focuses on locating hidden drug facilities buried deep in rural Mexico. Yet once Trump took office again, the mission accelerated. Drone activity increased, and a full-scale military deployment followed. Within days of Trump's return, the southern border saw a military surge. By the end of March, over 2,000 troops were assigned to border operations. Among them, more than 140 intelligence specialists from agencies like the CIA and NSA. The Navy and Border Patrol had been fighting hard already, but the cartels stayed one step ahead by diving beneath the surface, literally. Submersibles, once considered too advanced for criminal groups, became a new frontier for smuggling. These aren't military-grade submarines. Early versions from the 90s were handmade with plywood and fiberglass in dense, swampy terrain where satellites couldn't detect them. But today's narco subs are built by skilled engineers. Modern versions stretch up to 80 feet long, can travel over 2,500 miles, and cost upwards of $2 million to construct. Crewed by 5 men, each one can haul 10 tons of cocaine, worth about $150 million. Their design makes them incredibly hard to track. Painted in flat blues and grays to blend with ocean waves, they leave almost no wake. Some are even lined with lead panels to absorb heat, making them invisible to thermal imaging. If spotted, the crews have a contingency. A single valve can flood and sink the vessel in minutes, along with all its cargo, leaving no evidence behind. But submarines aren't the cartel's only high-tech tool. Their other weapon? Speed. Enter the go-fast boats, small but deadly. Around 30 feet in length, most are powered by 3 or 4 high-performance engines and can hit speeds over 80 miles per hour. They're built for agility and stealth, hugging the waterline painted to match the sea, and often operated by a single smuggler to maximize space for drugs and fuel. With as much as 2,000 gallons of fuel on board, they can cover over 500 miles, enough to go from Colombia to Jamaica or from the Bahamas to Florida. Now, cartels have gone further, developing hybrids. These low-profile vessels blend the traits of go-fasts and submarines. They cruise just above the waterline, are nearly invisible to radar, and move at slower speeds, about 30 miles per hour. Constructed with radar-absorbing materials, they're the ultimate stealth craft. With subs lurking in the deep and low-slung boats skimming the waves, cartel smuggling has become a game of shadows. Shipments can appear from anywhere, at any time. But there's one ship that's turned that chaos into fear: the USCGC James. In 2025, this Coast Guard cutter has become a legend. During a grueling 112-day patrol, it captured so much cartel cargo that some traffickers won't even speak its name aloud. The James is a 418-foot maritime fortress operated by 150 elite crew members trained in high-speed pursuits and at-sea interdictions. In one mission near Ecuador, it deployed a drone with an 18-hour flight window and ultra-clear cameras to track a suspicious vessel. The result? 3 smugglers arrested and over 2,200 pounds of cocaine confiscated. The day after that bust, surveillance spotted an even bolder move: 3 go-fast boats running together. It's a risky tactic, rarely seen. U.S. forces launched helicopters and intercepted all 3 simultaneously. 9 more traffickers were taken into custody and another 14,000 pounds of cocaine seized. Cartels responded by switching to radar-evading boats. But once again, the cutter James was ready. A helicopter swooped in, disabled the engines mid-run, and apprehended the crew, along with over 8,000 pounds of drugs. In another chase, smugglers began tossing bales of cocaine into the sea to outrun the Navy. But fast response teams retrieved both the drugs and the culprits, salvaging 6,000 pounds of narcotics from the ocean. In 4 months, the James removed over 48,000 pounds of illegal substances, worth more than $920 million, from cartel hands, enough to cripple trafficking routes for months. Other Navy ships, such as the USS Minneapolis-St. Paul and USS St. Louis, have joined the mission in the Caribbean, helping dismantle the smuggling networks of groups like Sinaloa and CJNG, Jalisco New Generation. To reinforce the effort, the USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer equipped with Tomahawk missiles, was deployed to waters near the Texas-Mexico border, not for show, but for action. It's now coordinating with Border Patrol and Coast Guard units both in U.S. territory and just beyond. And it's not just happening at sea. President Trump is pushing hard to fulfill his long-promised border wall revival. New sections rise 30 feet into the sky, built with steel bollards and fitted with features to prevent climbing. But that's just the surface. Every panel is wired with motion sensors and high-definition surveillance cameras. The moment movement is detected, alerts go out, and the Air National Guard responds. Since Border Patrol agents must be boots on the ground, the National Guard fills the surveillance gap. Upon alert, drones are launched to scout the terrain. If someone is spotted, law enforcement is dispatched within minutes. This shift has made smuggling far more difficult. Under Biden, Border Patrol caught over 7,100 people per day. Under Trump, that number has dropped to about 1,000 daily, a staggering difference. And this is just the beginning. Every branch of the U.S. military is now part of this fight. They've brought in surveillance platforms, fast response units, and drone warfare on a scale never seen in the war on drugs. One surprising comeback? The legendary U-2 spy plane. Despite its age, it remains one of the most powerful aerial intelligence tools ever built. Flying at 70,000 feet, it can capture crystal-clear images from over 300 miles away and map hidden cartel bases, even through dense jungle canopy or mountain ranges. Together with MQ-9 Reapers, U-2s are scanning Mexico's terrain day and night, identifying targets that were once invisible. The message is clear: the United States is no longer waiting. Every eye in the sky, every ship at sea, and every boot on the ground is aimed at one goal: dismantling the cartels once and for all. The battle lines are drawn, the storm is here, and for the cartels, escape is no longer an option. The U.S. Navy is stepping up its game in a big way. Among the latest assets deployed is the P-8 Poseidon, a cutting-edge surveillance aircraft originally engineered to track enemy submarines and warships. Today, it's soaring over the Baja Peninsula, monitoring the Pacific coastline for cartel maritime activity. Its advanced sonar and radar systems are crucial for intercepting drug shipments, especially those aimed at slipping into California. Meanwhile, one of America's most powerful intelligence aircraft, the RC-135 Rivet Joint, has been spotted flying over cartel-controlled zones. Outfitted with sophisticated signal interception gear, this plane can pick up everything, from cell phone chatter and radio frequencies to encrypted communications used by top-level cartel operatives. Every time a trafficker makes a call, sends a signal, or radios a message, the Rivet Joint locks in on it, zeroing in on their exact location. After being seen near Culiacan, a notorious cartel stronghold. It became clear the U.S. Air Force is gathering intel straight from the top of the cartel hierarchy. But what Washington plans to do with that intel is where things take a serious turn. Talks of taking direct military action against cartel networks have floated around for years. But now, it's more than talk. It's nearing reality. According to multiple current and former military, intelligence, and law enforcement sources, President Trump is seriously weighing targeted airstrikes. The plan on the table hit cartel leaders, drug labs, transport hubs, and storage facilities using drones and bombers deep inside Mexican territory. Quiet meetings between Pentagon brass, White House officials, and intelligence chiefs are already underway. And while Mexican authorities have been briefed, cooperation isn't guaranteed. Behind closed doors, there's already chatter that if diplomacy stalls, the U.S. might go solo, launching covert strikes without formal permission from Mexico's government. If that happens, it could mark one of the largest U.S. military actions on foreign land since the early 2000s War on Terror. The scope of the proposed mission, the personnel, aircraft, and firepower involved, would dwarf anything the cartels have faced before. When asked about the reports, the National Security Council remained tight-lipped, a silence that only fuels speculation. At the same time, Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, has pushed back hard against any idea of unauthorized military involvement. While acknowledging collaboration with U.S. forces, she's made it clear any unsanctioned action would be seen as a breach of sovereignty. That hasn't stopped Ronald Johnson, Trump's pick for U.S. ambassador to Mexico, from endorsing unilateral action if it comes to that. And the U.S. military isn't bluffing. The Pentagon is reportedly prepping the B-2 Spirit, one of the world's most fearsome stealth bombers, for deployment. Originally designed for nuclear warfare, the B-2 is engineered to slip past enemy radar undetected, strike with brutal accuracy, and vanish before anyone knows it was there. The bomber's sleek design isn't just aesthetic. Its curved body and low profile scatter radar waves away from enemy systems, making it nearly invisible even at close range. Its radar signature is about the size of a bird, just 0.1 square meters. But the B-2's invisibility doesn't stop at radar. Its engines are tucked inside the fuselage with specialized exhausts that cool the heat before it escapes, helping it dodge infrared detection from heat-seeking missiles. Covered in a top-secret coating, rumored to include a material called iron ball paint, the B-2 absorbs nearly 80% of radar energy. It was made for night raids, precision strikes, and deep penetration missions with zero warning. Supporting the B-2 in the skies are E-2D Hawkeye radar planes. These aircraft scan enemy airspace and feed encrypted updates directly to the bomber via secure data links, giving the B-2 a real-time 3D battlefield view, all without using its own radar, which could expose its position. This coordination lets the bomber operate in complete radio silence while knowing exactly where everything is, making it ideal for hunting down hidden cartel strongholds. And when it's time to hit hard, the B-2 doesn't hold back. It can carry up to 40,000 pounds of armament, including 2,000-pound JDAM bombs, smaller guided munitions, or even the monstrous 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker buster, built to obliterate underground targets like fortified cartel tunnels or command centers. These bombs can be dropped from 50,000 feet and fall silently for over 40 seconds, smashing into targets with terrifying force, all while the bomber is already miles away, unreachable and undetected. It also integrates seamlessly into the military's tactical network. It receives mission data from satellites, relays information through secure channels, and communicates using the Link 16 system, allowing it to adapt mid-flight and coordinate with other units in real time. On board, an electronic defense suite constantly scans for enemy radar activity. If it detects a lock-on attempt, it immediately notifies the pilots and suggests evasive action, whether it's changing altitude or adjusting course, to stay under the radar. This level of capability has cartel leaders rattled. Because with the B-2 in the air, there's nowhere to hide. Whether it's a jungle lab, a mountain compound, or a hidden bunker in plain sight, the bomber can find it and wipe it out without a trace. And while it can be armed with nuclear warheads like the B-61 or B-83, those weapons remain off the table, at least for now. But make no mistake, these conventional strikes are the most powerful tools the U.S. has short of nuclear arms. And they send a chilling message. The United States is ready to use overwhelming force to dismantle cartel operations no matter where they're hiding.
The Kremlin has finally decided to go head-to-head with the top nations like the United States and China in producing a new stealth bomber that is about to change the game. The concept of war has historically favored the team that dominates the skies, and Russia seems well poised to strike fear into the hearts of potential opponents with its new bomber. How did the world react to the sight of the behemoth? Could Russia be on the verge of triggering another arms race? Join us as we discuss the amazing features of Russia's new stealth bomber. Rumors of Russia's new stealth bomber have taken a stranglehold of worldwide military space since the early 2020s. However, the wait is finally over. It is coming, and it is a monster. Unlike the very first types of Russian bombers, including the Tupolev Tu-95 and the Tupolev Tu-160, which rely on brute lethal force and speed as their greatest features, the new Russian stealth bomber, PAKDA, relies on invisibility as its greatest feature. Just how does anyone fight a bomber they cannot even see? Although rumors of this bomber became prominent in the 2020s, the Kremlin has secretly had it in the works since the late 1990s, when the Russian government decided on a need for a new strategic bomber with different types of technical and tactical requirements compared to its predecessors. Having drawn out a design for the bomber, the Russian Air Force needed to come to a decision about which company should be given the privilege of building the Kremlin's next-generation bomber. After many deliberations, they came to a unanimous decision to have the bomber built by Tupolev Design Bureau in 2007 before the finances were released to fund the project in 2008. However, questions begin to linger about the details of the design, especially after rumors of a possible replication of the Tupolev Tu-160, owing to its ability to travel at supersonic speed. But it was soon debunked by a public address from then Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, who implied that the new bomber would be a completely different design, which was an exciting prospect as well, since the United States and China had just unveiled their B-21 Raider and the H-20 respectively. Although there has been no press release or any form of publication confirming that the new stealth bomber was a direct geopolitical message to the forces of the West, which have consistently flexed their military might, there are theories stemming from Russia that the new bomber was an example of Russia taking the lead in the arms marathon that has silently been afoot since the World War. From Vladimir Putin's interview, it was almost too easy to tell that this was more than just some aircraft. It was a geopolitical weapon with a direct message of mutually assured destruction to the West. While the Raiders and the H-20s have dominated aerial warfare for a long time, owing to their beastly presence in combat, how much of a threat is Russia's new PAKDA bomber? Like General Giulio Douhet once said, "He who controls the air controls everything," and Russia is definitely not oblivious to the fact. Ergo, the deliberation to create a bomber that matches up to the intensity of Raiders and H-20s. The Russian Air Force had quickly figured out that aerial warfare was moving slightly away from speed and creeping towards more intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR warfare. Hence, they followed suit with the proposal of creating their own stealth bomber, capable of producing both hunter and killer functions. For some context, the Tu-160, manufactured by the same company in charge of the new stealth bomber, was designed to be a hunter mission bomber aircraft. It is a supersonic, variable sweep-wing, nuclear-capable heavy strategic bomber designed for hunter missions. It was commissioned to service in 1987 serving as both a conventional and nuclear bomber following the requirement of the Soviet Union in 1967. The Tu-160 was designed with the perfect aerodynamic cheat code with the deliberate attachment of a variable geometry wing. The variable geometry wing, or swing wing in popular parlance, was designed to optimize all levels of movement, ranging from takeoff and landing to cruising. For instance, when the wings are in full extension, they give low-speed stability and do not require the regular length of a runway to take off or land. Hence, it makes it easier for the Tu-160 bomber to operate from varied airfields and carry huge payloads. While there is a huge chance that the bomber's aerodynamic wings could be optimized or manipulated to perform hunter missions, its sheer size negates its potential impact on avoiding the A2AD aircraft defense mechanism used by most top nations. Although the swing wings are relevant to attaining low-speed stability, when they are swept back, the aircraft becomes more aerodynamic and can attain and sustain supersonic speed with little to no drags as the aircraft travels at Mach 5. The Tu-160's ability to perform a wide range of missions because of its flexibility has made it a threat to the West and the big players in the Indo-Pacific regions, like China. Its mission flexibility gives it wiggle room to go from subsonic speed to supersonic, making it the best of both worlds, and op countries around the world have struggled to keep up with it. However, that just wasn't enough for the Kremlin. They wanted more, or maybe less, considering the fact that they want the PIKDA to focus on stealth more than speed, and reaching that decision by enforcing the decision that it is only retrofitted with subsonic speed. On September 3, 2009, the Russian Defense Ministry awarded Tupolev Design Bureau a 3-year research and development contract to undertake studies for the new long-range bomber. According to the President General Designer of Tupolev, Igor Shevchuk, this should be a fundamentally new aircraft based on conceptually new solutions. However, for a country with the number of aircraft and bombers that the Kremlin possesses, there is always going to be that one voice who questions the need for more. For some context, on June 12, 2012, then Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin questioned the need for a new long-range bomber, pointing out the immense progress that Russia and their archenemy, the West, were making in aerial and anti-missile defense technology, reinforcing his point that spending billions of taxpayers' money on an aircraft when they know the difficulty of breaching these new aerial defenses. Although he had made his point, the Chief of the General Staff, Nikolai Makarov, responded by stating that the Kremlin's intention to put in the work and build this bomber revolves around creating a monster behemoth in the air that is much more superior to the United States. His statement was indirectly backed up by President Vladimir Putin on the 14th of the same month, who hammered on the importance of getting a new long-range bomber regardless of the impact of the Tupolev Tu-160s. By 2013, the PAKDA team had finally reached a decision to focus on the stealth options on the PAKDA, while also giving it a subsonic flying wing. Although there were published articles going against the decision to only add a subsonic flying wing, the rationale behind it was pretty simple. Russia already has bombers capable of subsonic and supersonic speed. Hence, they wanted something different in speed and size, but just flexible enough to perform both hunter and killer missions in a single run. The PAKDA's flying wing is a tailless, fixed-wing aircraft that has no definite fuselage, with its crew, payload, fuel, and equipment housed inside the main wing structure. However, it would have various small protuberances such as pods, nacelles, blisters, booms, or vertical stabilizers. The design gives the aircraft a flat shape while flying at the speed of a regular commercial plane, making it nigh impossible to detect by radar. However, the aircraft is much more potent than the deliberately shunted speed limit on the subsonic level. For a hunter mission, its ability to travel at the same speed as an airplane while having a flat shape, looking almost like a single wing hovering in the skies, gives it the advantage and leverage to get closer to its mark when it needs to perform killer missions. This design struck the perfect balance between stealth missions and killer missions. Although the designs bordered along the lines of perfection, there was one hiccup. How exactly does the flat-back plane hide all of its payload without drag and also be able to deploy hypersonic missiles without getting spotted? The Russian Defense Ministry had designed the flatback bomber with stealth and killer missions in mind. Ergo, they found ways to integrate the fuselage and other parts of the aircraft into the flying wing, drawing inspiration from the single-bay design of the American B-2 Spurt, their direct competitor. But how does a subsonic flying wing aircraft carry and unleash a payload of hypersonic weapons and hit its target? The rationale was rather simple. Since the missions were flexible, meaning that the aircraft could be on a double mission in one run, hunting and killing its targets, the payloads are tucked neatly in the aircraft's body, making it impossible to spot even with A2AD aerial defenses. While the plane flies at subsonic speed and gets closer to its mark, the bay opens and the hypersonic missile is dropped on its target. However, the missile isn't fired from the aircraft. Instead, it is released at normal speed. Then the engine on the missile sets it up to go faster than Mach 5 and explodes on impact. The aircraft was designed to carry payloads the size of the Kh-47M2. The Kh-47M2 is a Russian air-launched ballistic missile with an estimated range of 460 to 480 kilometers and a reported top speed of Mach 10, which is twice the speed of sound. It can carry either conventional or nuclear warhead and can be launched by two 22M3 bombers, MiG-31K interceptors, modified Su-34 fighter bomber, and very soon the PAK-DA. Even before the advent of the PAK-DA, the Kh-47M2 had already been deployed on numerous war missions by the Russian Air Force. However, its most recent deployment has taken the most sting out of the West in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. The United States has openly supported Ukraine and given them war support to keep them in a fight with Russia, who apparently has the stronger military and better military weapons on land, air, and the seas. However, during the Biden-Harris administration, President Joe Biden, in March 2022, confirmed that Russia deployed hypersonic missiles in Ukraine, which he described as almost impossible to stop. The message was clear. Russia has a missile that is nigh untrackable, making them even more dangerous than they were. And this time, they are in the process of manufacturing a flying wing subsonic bomber that easily escapes the radar and is capable of carrying the Kh-47M2. This perfectly balanced bomber was more than just technology. It was a message well received from Russia to the rest of the world. However, it wasn't until April 2014 that the head of Russia's United Aircraft Corporation, otherwise called UAC, Mikhail Pogosyan, announced that the Tupolev Design Bureau had finalized the design and that the project was moving to the intermediate phase, signaling the completion of the design and construction of a prototype. And that was Russia's first hiccup. The Russian Defense Ministry demanded 5 billion Russian rubles to prepare the Kazan Aircraft Production Association plant in Kazan. As expected, the old voices of reason, who believed that the country already had enough long-range bombers, were back asking the same questions. However, the Kremlin responded by releasing the requested 5 billion Russian rubles, which were allocated to reconstructing and re-equipping the Kazan Aircraft Production Association plant in Kazan. While it was widely reported in Russia that the first full-size model of the bomber was built, amongst various scale mock-ups of different configurations on March 1, 2017, it wasn't released openly, hence the public only had verbal knowledge of the aircraft. It wasn't long before doubt had started to set in, with rumors of PAK-DA being a ruse making the rounds. However, in July 2018, the United Engine Corporation, otherwise called the UEC, and Tupolev, the company that was commissioned with the responsibility of building the PAK-DA, revealed that they had just signed a contract for the creation of the bomber's power plant. However, questions lingered on how they decided to create the power plant. Was it going to be some new groundbreaking idea, or was it going to come from an already established engine? Soon there were released reports that suggest a possible upgrade from the Kuznetsov NK-32 engine. In the same year, the Kremlin reportedly allocated 8 billion Russian rubles for the development of this new engine, which was contracted to JSC Kuznetsov in Samara. Although the specifications of the engine have been a well-guarded secret, its potential performances have been heavily publicized. The engine is rumored to provide the PAK-DA with the required force to perform a 30-hour non-stop mission without having to refuel. But it gets even better, as it also comes with a temperature-resistant feature, protecting it from the effects of a nuclear explosion, and a service life between 12 to 21 years. While the engines remained in construction, the PAKDA's final draft was finally approved, and the construction in the plant began in late 2019. Although Tupolev kept the construction process away from the media, Russia's state-owned news agency, the TASS, reported on May 26, 2020, that the very first PAKDA, which will be the finished article, was already in construction and will be finished in early 2023. Although Tupolev were the leading constructors, they had help from companies like NPP's Vesta, which announced at the 2021 Max Air Show that his company was in the process of completing the construction of the PAKDA's ejection seats and hoped to hand them over to Tupolev in 2023, the proposed date for the first sighting of the massive aircraft. While speculations of the KH-47M2 being the main hypersonic weapon to be fitted into the PAKDA's weapons bay had consistently made the rounds on the internet, on August 2021, it was announced that a new long-range, nuclear-capable hypersonic cruise missile, the KH-95, was under development to be fitted inside the PAKDA's weapon bay. Although the Kremlin has earmarked aerial warfare dominance, specifically over the United States, as the reason for funding the creation of the PAKDA, there is growing evidence that the possible integration of a hypersonic missile carrying a nuclear warhead might be an overkill, but is capable of changing aerial warfare forever. Could Russia finally take the giant leap over the United States and China, who have recently been at the top of the food chain in aerial combat? Could the creation of the PAKDA spark a new global arms race? While the world holds its breath in grievous anticipation of Russia's release of the PAKDA, the United States and China have decided to raise the stakes even further, especially the United States, who are now looking to upgrade their long-range bombers. But just how does their Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider fare, in contrast with the PAKDA? America developed its Long-Range Strike Bomber, or LSB program in 2011, with only one goal in mind: aerial dominance. Over the years, aerial warfare has hit a fever pitch, and there is no bringing it down. Hence the hot pursuit of top countries who are looking to not only get in on the action, but be at the very top of the food chain. Hence America's decision to come up with the B-21 Raider. The Raider is proposed to be a stealth intercontinental strategic bomber that can deliver conventional and thermonuclear weapons. Named Raider in honor of the Doolittle Raiders of the Second World War, the B-21 is meant to replace the Rockwell B-1 Lancer and Northrop B-2 Spirit by 2040, and possibly the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress after that. Although, just like the PAKDA, the B-21 Raider has been touted for a release in 2023, especially since the first flight of the Raider already occurred on November 10, 2023, and 3 of them, which were considered airworthy, were involved in program testing in September 2024. However, neither nation has fully released their new bombers. Although there are reports of technical delays, like with the PAKDA, where the sanctions following the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine, starting the Russo-Ukrainian War in 2022, have been rumored to halt their momentum, and the B-21 Raider has been touted to be undergoing early-stage flight testing. There are other geopolitical rumors that have effortlessly made the rounds in the media. For some context, there are speculations that both countries are in the middle of a game of chicken, seeing who blinks first, with hopes that the first release is assessed by the other country, who then upgrades theirs to remain on top of the food chain. Although the speculations seem to have stuck because neither nation has presented their aircraft in the timeline that they proposed, Russia has come flying out of the gates in a rush to defend their position. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov has openly discussed the common struggles with schedules around the world, but he assures Russia and the entire world that the sanctions following the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine would not affect the timing of the creation of the PAKDA, as the bomber does not contain any foreign components. Although he made these bold claims in 2022, promising that the aircraft would be completed by 2026, with a prototype ready by 2023, as of June 2025, there are still no reports of a prototype. While the world waits for this new stealth subsonic behemoth bomber capable of hosting and launching hypersonic missiles with nuclear warheads, the potential reaction of other top countries remains to be seen, as aerial warfare might change forever. The war between the United States National Intelligence and the Mexican cartels has been going on for far too long. While there are reports that suggest the possibility of the cartels backing down and quitting their trade of fentanyl into the United States, perhaps afraid of their military, they seem to have other plans. This time there are reports of 15 cartel drones weaponized against a United States aircraft carrier. Could this be their undoing? Have they signed their death warrant by attempting an attack on America? Join us as we explore the United States' explosive reaction to the cartel's brazen decision to engage an aircraft carrier. While it isn't particularly an ideal of a well-run sovereign state, Mexico has continuously taken on the mantle of being home to the most unforgiving drug barons, who not only cook fentanyl and other types of substances on their land, but also have enough arms to power a small militia, pushing them even further than just being drug barons and cartel leaders into local terrorists. Although a sovereign state has autonomy of rulership and is ideally free from foreign intervention, especially from the juggernauts in the West, cartel leaders have come close quite a few times to breaking that reality since they decided to make the United States a market for their illicit substances being cooked at drug labs in Mexico. The United States had first seen the fentanyl problem rise in 2013, and the Center for Disease Control, otherwise called the CDC, called it the third wave of the opioid epidemic. In that year, 3,105 people died from overdosing on fentanyl. However, it got worse in 2022 when the United States took into account the consistent deaths from overdose on the super addictive fentanyl ferried from the Mexican border into America, and the numbers were overboard. Imagine a country losing over 72,000 people to an addictive substance from the borders of a sovereign state, and the ideals of sovereignty making it hard to respond with force. But what really is fentanyl and what makes it dangerous? Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is up to 50 times stronger than heroin and about 100 times stronger than morphine. Like other opioids, fentanyl use can lead to dependency and addiction. While there are other countries that produce this illicit substance, most illicit fentanyl is made in labs outside the country and smuggled across the United States-Mexico border. While the United States had consistently tried and failed at stopping these cartels dead in their tracks, owing to the red tape and bureaucratic process that comes with having a military presence in another sovereign state unless it is called Interpol. Fast forward to 2023, one of the United States' top senators, Lindsey Graham, wasn't having any more of it. He believed that the United States had been treating the cartel problem with a bit of levity, hence leaving them to fester like an open wound. So he suggested the introduction of a bill called the Ending the Notorious, Aggressive, and Remorseless Criminal Organizations and Syndicates, or NARCOS Act, which designates the top cartels in Mexico as foreign terrorist organizations. This way, the United States could finally give legitimacy to law enforcement agencies and prosecutors, empowering them with the authority to freeze the assets of these organizations, deny members of the cartels entry into the United States, and even seek out tougher punishments against those who provide any kind of material support to the terrorist organization. However, despite the continuous criticism from the United States, the Mexican government stands on its sovereignty and claims that the cartels are not in control of their country, as the United States has led everyone to believe. Despite what the president of Mexico says, drug cartels are in control of large parts of Mexico, said Graham. He confirms that they are making billions of dollars sending fentanyl and illicit substances into the United States, where it is killing citizens by the thousands. Designating these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations will be a game changer. More importantly, Senator Graham believed that they weren't working alone, and he explicitly mentioned the Chinese as their ally, who supplied them with the necessary ingredients to cook up the poison that had infested the United States, and his bill was also coming for them. However, his bill was rejected. While the cartels have been known to simply cook these illicit substances and find ways to peddle them across the United States-Mexico border, there was something else about them that had suddenly started to stand out like a sore thumb. Suddenly, they had improved from simple substance peddling and expanded their crime portfolio into other types of crimes, including smuggling operations, which were mostly human and human parts, and other contraband movements like guns, military-grade explosives, and so much more. This sudden increase in the cartel's crime syndicate led them to recruit enough ex-military and all types of professionals, enough to help wage and win small wars while armed to the teeth. For some context, news of suspected cartel criminals who belonged to one of Mexico's most notorious cartels, the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, often called CJNG, were seen attacking the police in the western state of Michoacán in Mexico. The Mexican police force had never had to face the cartels with a drone before and did not even know that the cartels now had drones rigged with bombs. Further reports explored the cartel's newfound confidence since they now had access to RPGs, nuclear weapons, and weaponized drones. Hence, they tried to assassinate Mexico City's police chief, Omar Garcia Harfuch. While the cartels fought an open rebellion against the Mexican national security system, they had been craftier when dealing with the titans of the West. However, having upgraded their crime syndicate beyond substance peddling into other illegal ventures, while arming themselves with enough to fight a small war and hiring mercenaries, they took a bolder step. Something more daring. Reports suggest that they chose to attack a United States aircraft carrier. But why the carrier? What makes the carrier that much of a threat? And why did it need to be taken out so badly by the cartel? Aircraft carriers are warships that serve as seagoing air bases, equipped with a full-length flight deck and hangar facilities for supporting, arming, deploying, and in some cases, recovering carrier-based aircraft. As of June 2025, there are only 50 active aircraft carriers in the entire world, and they are operated by 15 naval forces. The United States has the largest of these carriers with a whopping 11 catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery, or CATABAR, fleet carriers, each housing approximately 80 manned and unmanned carrier-based fighter jets. It is described as the perfect technology, especially for the purpose it serves, ferrying a whole airbase on its back to strategic points, good enough to hatch a plan and be ready to move out at any time. The United States active aircraft carriers are divided into two classes, including the Nimitz class, which carries the FA-18C Hornet, the FA-18EF Super Hornet, the F-35C Lightning II, the EA-18G Growler, the C-2 Greyhound, and the E-2CD Hawkeye, plus the Gerald R. Ford class, which also carries a large number of fighter jets. While all of the aircraft carriers, especially the Nimitz class, have often been referred to as the pride of the American Navy, one of them seems to stand out the most, the USS Harry S. Truman. But why is it the standout aircraft carrier? What makes it so special? The USS Harry S. Truman was designed as the 8th Nimitz-class aircraft carrier of the United States Navy and was named after the 33rd President of the United States, Harry S. Truman. The aircraft carrier was launched on September 7, 1996 by Newport News Shipbuilding, Newport News, Virginia, and commissioned on July 25, 1998, with Captain Thomas Otterbein in command. The USS Harry Truman has often been used as a flagship for one of the biggest carrier operations in the early 2000s, specifically the Carrier Strike Group 10, a United States Navy carrier strike group. As of August 2004, Carrier Strike Group 10 consisted of USS George Harry Truman, CVN-75, the strike group's flagship with carrier Air Wing 7 embarked on board, as well as the Ticonderoga-class cruiser Lady Gulf and 4 ships of Destroyer Squadron 26. The warship has often been regarded as the crown jewel of the United States military force, not just owing to its sheer size and how much it intimidates opponents, but also for its strengths in war and how many operations it has been in and conquered for the United States. The USS Harry S. Truman, also called the HST by the United States Navy, is 1,092 feet long, almost the size of downtown Seattle's entire waterfront stretch, and 257 feet wide, while standing at a massive 244 feet. The aircraft carrier, alongside accommodating a lot of crew members, is also able to carry just about 90 aircraft and has a flight deck of 45 acres in size, with 4 elevators that are 3,880 square feet each to move around between the 24-story flight deck and the hangar bay. The warship also uses 2 Mark II stockless anchors, a streamlined derivation of the traditional Admiralty anchor used aboard large ships. Patented in England in 1821, it eliminated the stock of the Admiralty type, making it both easier to handle and stow. These anchors came from the USS Forrestal and weighed 30 tons each, with each link of the anchor chain weighing over 160 kilograms. On top of that, she is a well-protected sea monster, equipped with 3 20mm Phalanx CIWS mounts and 2 Sea Sparrow surface-to-air missile launchers. However, one of its greatest capacities is its propulsion system using 2 Westinghouse A4W nuclear reactors. It's almost like having a tiny sun inside it. Ergo, it is nearly no surprise that the warship could travel at an incredible speed for over 3 million miles before it ever needed a refuel. More importantly, the warship has 4 giant propellers under the body of water that help push it forward. Each of these propellers weighs 66,000 pounds, nearly the size of 6 full-grown Asian elephants. These 5-bladed propellers are built to drive the warship at speeds over 30 knots. The warship has been a source of constant pain and a nightmare to the United States opposition, especially terrorists in Yemen, the Houthis, Israel, and even ISIS in Somalia. However, its latest contribution to America's war against the insurgents in Somalia came at a cost and claimed some lives. The carrier pulled into Naval Station Norfolk on Sunday, June 1st, with family and other sailors waiting to meet them. Videos and photos shared by the Navy and local media showed crew members embracing loved ones. A large combat action ribbon banner was set up on the ship's superstructure. It was a welcome homecoming for a carrier group that went on an extended 251-day-long deployment. The USS Truman has been deployed on several missions, particularly to fight insurgents and actually take the fight to them. For some context, when the Truman Carrier Strike Group arrived in the Middle East in December 2024, the United States Navy was more than a year into an ongoing fight with Houthi forces. The Truman was the latest in several aircraft carriers to be sent to waters around the Middle East since October 22, both as a wider deterrent and to deal with the threats from Yemen to shipping vessels. During its deployment, the crew of the USS Harry S. Truman and the aviators of Carrier Air Wing 1 launched 11,000 sorties, flew 25,000 flight hours, and executed 22 underway replenishments, as confirmed by Admiral Darrell Caudle, commander of United States Fleet Forces Command. Although the deployment was successful, it was also marred by some serious mishaps, including the loss of 3 of the warship's fighter jets. She lost the FA-18 fighter jets while also suffering a collision with a merchant ship that forced her into a change of command. Despite that, the Carrier Strike Force still remained at the forefront of the Navy's actions in the Middle East, giving them hell, like the crest on the battle flag says. Despite the USS Truman's intense battle at the Red Sea, it came back still standing and raring to go again when needed. Such is the force of the Sea Beast at its very best. As expected, news of their fighting and conquering Yemeni insurgents, ISIS, and the Houthis, which are all well-armed terrorist groups, traveled far and wide, but the Mexican cartels have had it in for the United States for a long time, and they believe that they could succeed where real terrorist organizations like ISIS and the Houthis failed, sinking the USS Truman, so they plotted an attack with drones. Drones were never really a part of the Mexican cartel inventory. They had bombs, local Molotov cocktails, military-grade C4, assault rifles, including AK-47s, semi-automatic guns like the Uzi, and even rifles. However, aerial power had never been a real focal point of their strength. However, they have recently found their way into real aerial threats, leveraging the use of drones for many reasons, such as smuggling items like narcotics, weapons, and money across the United States-Mexico border. Unmanned aircraft systems, otherwise called UAS, have been used extensively by cartels to perform intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, otherwise called ISR, a privilege that was once limited to the military. However, they have found ways to get their hands on these drones and use them for closely monitoring the location and concentration of the United States forces and their federal agents, and to scout for the safety of their roads, seeing how feasible it is to ferry illegal migrants through the deserts between the United States and Mexico and make it into the United States. Although the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions were the focus of their newly acquired power, recent intelligence reports in the United States forebode a shift in the cartel's tactics, with threats of weaponizing their drones to target federal law enforcement, engaging them in a battle, and disrupting the border security to give them an advantage in moving not just the narcotics, but also sending a message to the United States about their newly acquired aerial threats. Like it is commonly said, for good or for ill, air mastery is today the supreme expression of military power, and the cartels showed it off. Although the drones are not particularly expensive, aerial threats like one would consider a fighter jet. For example, unmanned drones cost less than $2,000 and can be bought off the internet and retrofitted with a payload of the user's choice, which could be a camera or maybe an explosive, or anything strong enough to cause extreme damage and destruction. While the United States could respond with force, especially since they have a superior military, they have reportedly been opting for a more cautious approach, including a combat-tested counter-drone technology that provides real-time tracking, identification, and mitigation. However, recent reports are suggesting that the United States might have decided to throw caution to the wind and go for the jugular, especially since the unconfirmed reports of the cartels sending 15 drones to attack the United States USS Harry Truman, the famous crown jewel of the United States Naval Fleet. Although the drones reportedly had removed tracking systems and were in the air without a remote ID, the spreading intelligence is that it was possibly a coordinated attack from the Sinaloa cartel as retaliation for the extradition of the cartel leader's affiliate in 2023. However, it all dates back even further to 2019, when Ovidio Guzman was arrested in Mexico, but he was returned because the Sinaloan cartel had too much grip on a chunk of firepower in the country. For some context, an officer believed to have been involved in the arrest of Ovidio Guzman Lopez was riddled with 150 rounds in a matter of seconds, with a closed-circuit television revealing a group of armed men with connections to the Sinaloa cartel committing this heinous crime. Guzman Lopez was apprehended by 30 members of the National Guard, militarized police, and army in a raid on his compound in October 2019. However, officers were forced to release him after members of his father's notorious Sinaloa cartel swarmed the area, burning cars, destroying roads, ruining architecture, while armed to the teeth with military-grade weapons and mercenaries who are mostly ex-military with training to fire at them. The house where Guzman Lopez was taken was surrounded, while fighters ran through the surrounding city firing what appeared to be .50 caliber sniper rifles and machine guns while battling police and soldiers in broad daylight, and more importantly, they were winning. Videos were posted on social media showing gunmen in ski masks in battle formation, taking on Mexican forces, riding in the backs of trucks, and firing mounted machine guns at vehicles and gas stations. The Mexican authority bowed out in shame and gave Guzman Ovidio back to the cartel, causing an international embarrassment. However, in 2023, they went back in and targeted Guzman Ovidio again. This time, they had had 4 years to prepare and were ready to extradite him immediately when he was captured to the United States. They made up for the 2019 embarrassment and extradited the criminal to the United States. The furious Sinaloan cartel retaliated with an all-out war and persistent carnage on Mexican soil, but nothing came of it, as their war is not with the United States. With their motives established, reports that they might have been the perpetrators who attacked the United States warship with unmarked drones are not so far-fetched anymore. The Trump administration is now reportedly weighing up fighting fire, with the possibility of launching drone attacks on the Mexican cartels in Mexico, even though they have no jurisdiction. The Sinaloan cartel might have finally picked the wrong fight and the wrong country. Whether the United States approves a ruthless retaliation, flexing their military might and aerial dominance, or let the Mexican government handle it, only time will tell. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.